Chapter 1851. As a newcomer, Ning Shu didn't think that he could defeat the goddess of war, who was born with great strength and mastered all kinds of powers. Moreover, the most important thing now was to avoid being raped. There was no such thing as rape, and he wouldn't be punished or cursed by Athena. This was a chain of events. If he rashly went against the goddess of wisdom, he would be punished by the gods. A priest actually dared to attack the god he believed in. Ning Shu crawled on the ground. After Athena disappeared, Ning Shu slowly got up from the ground. After that, Ning Shu wore clothes and covered himself tightly. He wore 2 more layers of clothes. It was simply too hot. Other than the priests, there were other followers in this temple who served the goddess. Medusa really couldn't decide what to wear. After wearing 2 more layers, it was a little hot. Especially after leaving the temple, it was quite hot and sweaty. Other than doing what the priests did every day, Ning Shu secretly cultivated. She knew from Poseidon's gaze that this matter wasn't over. Luckily, there was enough spiritual energy and star power. However, Ning Shu didn't have the chance to test the power of the law. She wasn't allowed to leave the temple. It was too dangerous to test it under Athena's nose. She was just an ordinary person. Athena wouldn't be suspicious if she had the ability to drive water away. Before she had absolute power, she had to lie low. Her current identity was a servant of the goddess. What she had to do every day was to serve the goddess, represent the goddess, and shine the goddess's light on the world. What made Ning Shu more speechless was that even though she was dressed more conservatively now, men were still staring at her. If it was just purely admiring her beauty, Ning Shu wouldn't be so distressed. It was just that these people's gazes were simply too unbearable for Ning Shu. If she wasn't a god's servant now, she didn't know what fate she would have had. In addition, at this time, the culture was open. There was no rush for meat and vegetables, and the people were also open and unrestrained. Ning Shu's heart was really in a mess. Even if they were here to worship the goddess Athena, their gazes still wouldn't be honest. A priestess had to be a virgin, pure in heart and body. Athena punished Medusa for turning into an ugly snake demon to punish Medusa for being impure. After Poseidon left last time, he did not come again. It had been a while. Ning Shu counted the days. God had a lot of time. Perhaps Poseidon had something holding him back. He did not know when Poseidon would think of him again. While Poseidon was away, she had to train harder. If she had the strength to resist, she would not be raped in the temple. To defile the temple of Athena. Poseidon, the rapist, had to be punished this time. Athena was sometimes in the temple, sometimes on Mount Olympus. When Athena arrived, Ning Shu, as the priest, had to inform Athena of the pleas of the people. In this era, there were all kinds of heroes. The one who beheaded Medusa was also a hero and offered Medusa's head to Athena. Ning Shu could not understand. With Athena's ability, she could kill Medusa in minutes. Why did she have to go through the trouble of turning Medusa into a snake demon and then let the hero Perseus take her head? Was it to gild the hero's reputation? Since he was a hero, he must have made great achievements. Taking Medusa's head would be a great achievement that would be sung by the people of the world. This was especially true for Medusa's head of snake-like hair. These snake-like hair were made up of numerous snakes. Her head was densely packed with snakes, and she had a pair of eyes that looked like they would turn into stone if they looked at her. So scary. The hero was so powerful. Ning Shu crawled on the ground and said to Athena, "Goddess, the weather is hot. There seems to be signs of a drought this year. The people are praying for blessings." The people in Athens worshipped Athena. Athena looked at Ning Shu's clothes and looked away. "I know. Also, the livestock seems to be sick and dying." Athena was one of the rulers of dark clouds and lightning. She was the goddess of wisdom and the protector of agriculture and gardening. She taught people weaving, painting, sculpting, pottery, and animal husbandry. Humans would look for Athena and worship her if they had any problems. Athena nodded and scanned Ning Shu with her eyes. He felt like he was being seen through. Athena's golden armor shone brightly. Her hair was tied up with a golden ribbon. She was a goddess with bright eyes and white teeth, but her body was surging with golden divine power. Ning Shu's body was getting closer to the ground. He did not know what he did wrong to make Athena unhappy. It was not easy to guess the thoughts of a god. Although they were called gods, Ning Shu felt that they were just powerful people. When they were bored, they would make a bet in order to get the title of the most beautiful goddess. In the end, they became gods. It was not like there were no wars between humans. These gods were humans, not gods in a sense. Humans had all the human nature: greed, anger, infatuation, love, and evil desires. Has Poseidon been here recently? Athena asked. Her voice was clear and moving. Athena was the goddess of war and had the ability to lead. She was beautiful and masculine. Ning Shu prostrated himself on the ground and said respectfully, "The god of sea has not been here since he left last time." Ning Shu did not know why Athena asked this, but he answered honestly. Athena looked at Ning Shu, who was prostrating himself on the ground and could step on her head with his foot. She said, "Poseidon has taken a fancy to your beauty." Ning Shu, I'm a goddess in life and a goddess in death," Ning Shu said while prostrating himself on the ground. Ning Shu suspected that Athena wanted to disfigure him. If he was disfigured, Poseidon would definitely turn and run. But why did he want to hurt him? Did he know that someone had raped him, and then he cleverly disfigured himself? Ning Shu's thoughts were like a wild horse. "Do you want to become Poseidon's priest?" Athena asked. Ning Shu, was this a test? Would it be embarrassing for her to give her priest away? Ning Shu said, "No. Since you don't want to, don't do anything out of line just because you're pretty. If anything happens, I'll punish you," Athena warned Ning Shu. Ning Shu thought for a moment and asked boldly, "What if I'm forced and can't resist?" Athena's eyes were sharp. Ning Shu immediately understood. Ning Shu asked again, "The goddess loves her people and only grants them various skills. If something happens to her servants, will the goddess protect them? Are you doubting my might?" Athena looked down at Ning Shu, who was prostrating himself on the ground. Ning Shu immediately said, "I wouldn't dare." Chapter 1852. Whether or not to help was a personal matter. If he helped, it would be out of goodwill. If he didn't, it would be his duty. If Medusa had been raped by an ordinary man, Athena would have definitely punished him. However, after it happened, she blamed all the blame on the victim. Since she couldn't punish Poseidon, she doubled the punishment on the victim. This was a bit bitter. Medusa was just an insignificant existence. If the goddess could vent her anger, she would have some value. No one would care about Medusa's injuries. Firstly, it was because of strength. Secondly, it was because men were superior to women. This was a patriarchal society. Ning Shu didn't know if Athena was really going to give her to Poseidon. If she was really going to give her to Poseidon, Medusa wouldn't have been born. Ning Shu was conflicted. Should he go or not? You don't want to go with Poseidon. If Poseidon likes you, you might get some divine power. Although you won't be like a god, you can at least stay young forever, Athena said calmly. She was full of divine power. Was this a test? If he left, would he die before he even stepped out of the door? Speaking of which, Athena and Poseidon were in a competitive relationship. Poseidon liked to stir up trouble. It was a bit shameful to say too much or too little to give people a priest. Ning Shu crawled and said, "I don't want to go." "You really don't want to go?" Athena asked again. "I don't want to go." Athena waved her hand to let Ning Shu go. Ning Shu got up and walked out of the temple with his back bent. Not long after, Athena left the temple. She was probably going to deal with the drought and the death of the livestock. Ning Shu wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. If she was really half-hearted, she might not even have walked out. She might have been carried out. No, she might not even have a corpse. She might have disappeared from the face of the earth. Don't think that these gods are kind. They can kill their fathers and brothers as if it's a game. The infighting between the goddesses was enough to write a history of palace intrigue. Ning Shu returned to her room and began to cultivate. Other than cultivating, there was no other way. At night, the entire city of Greece was greeted with heavy rain. It was probably Athena's miracle. All the humans in the city of Athens ran out of their houses, singing and dancing, kneeling on the ground to worship the temple. Ning Shu could feel the power of faith flying towards the temple, which was absorbed by the statue of Athena. Some gods were born from the faith of humans. The power of faith was a good thing. A goddess of war like Athena would not dissipate even if she did not have faith, but the more faith she had, the better. However, this faith power had nothing to do with Ning Shu. She couldn't get any of it. Ning Shu comforted himself that his sister was also someone with faith power. After the miracle was revealed, Athena did not return to the temple. No one knew where she went. After Athena left, Ning Shu began to cultivate without restraint. He swallowed the spiritual energy like a whale. The spiritual energy in this plane was very abundant. The more he cultivated, the more power he would gain. Perhaps this bit of power would allow him to escape. A maidservant came in, and Ning Shu stopped cultivating. The maidservant lifted the veil and said to Ning Shu, "Priestess, a god is here as a guest. Now that the goddess is not here, please entertain him." "Who?" Ning Shu asked. "The god of the sea." Ning Shu was speechless. Damn, Poseidon swaggered in just like that. He took advantage of Athena's absence to come to the temple. However, Athena could return to the temple in the blink of an eye. At that time, Medusa had asked the statue of Athena for help. She had used a special divine language that only priestesses could understand to ask Athena for help. Athena had ignored Medusa's pleas. When Ning Shu heard that Poseidon had come and asked her to entertain him, she said, "I'm not feeling well. I don't want to go." The maid was worried. "Priestess, it's the god of the sea. If we neglect him, the goddess will blame us." "Priestess, the god of the sea has asked you to go." Ning Shu was speechless. "Since the priestess is not feeling well, I'll come over." Poseidon slowly appeared and entered the room. He lifted the veil and stared straight at Ning Shu. "Fuck off. You can leave. I'll call you if I need anything. I have something to discuss with the priestess." Poseidon asked the maid to leave. He reached out and lifted Ning Shu's chin. "Beautiful. Even the most beautiful sea demon in the sea cannot compare to you." Ning Shu looked at Poseidon expressionlessly. The maid hesitated and looked at Ning Shu worriedly. However, she could not disobey the god. She could only leave. The maid looked at Ning Shu with pity. She did not need to think to know what was going to happen next. "You are the god of the sea. The sea is under your control. How could he do such a shameless thing?" "Yes, I am the god of the sea." Poseidon approached Ning Shu and held Ning Shu's chin with his fingers, forcing Ning Shu to raise his chin. Poseidon's body exuded a strong hormonal aura. Perhaps he had lived in the sea for a long time, as he carried the scent of the sea with him. Ning Shu thought it was the smell of salted fish. It could not be helped. If he did not have feelings for someone, he would not tolerate their shortcomings. Poseidon held Ning Shu's chin with one hand and touched Ning Shu's face with the other. "Beautiful, so beautiful. Even the gods could not give you such beauty." Ning Shu rolled his eyes. Poseidon covered Ning Shu's eyes with his hand. Your eyes are so beautiful that it's suffocating. Ning Shu removed Poseidon's hand from his eyes. I am a priest of the goddess. Are you sure you want to do something to me in the temple? You are just a priest. Athena will not fall out with me for a priest, Poseidon said with a smile. He looked very masculine. His body was muscular, and the hand holding Ning Shu's chin was unusually wide. Poseidon approached Ning Shu and took a deep breath. He looked intoxicated. Wonderful smell, the fragrance of a virgin. Ning Shu said expressionlessly, actually, I have not bathed for a month. Poseidon laughed. He stuck out his tongue and suddenly licked Ning Shu's earlobe. I like this smell. Ning Shu was speechless. This damn salted fish's taste was unusual. Ning Shu wiped the wet saliva on his earlobe and wiped the saliva on his hand on Poseidon's body. Ning Shu's actions were beyond Poseidon's expectations. He thought that Ning Shu would be scared, shy, or angry. He did not expect Ning Shu to wipe his saliva on his body. Do you know who I am? Poseidon's face was not looking good. He squeezed Ning Shu's chin so hard that Ning Shu thought his cheeks were going to break. How dare you disrespect the gods? Tell me, how should I punish you? Poseidon's other hand squeezed Ning Shu's neck and slowly moved down. He would touch Ning Shu's chest if he went any lower. Chapter 1853. Poseidon's hand moved down, but Ning Shu grabbed Poseidon's wrist. What are you touching? Poseidon raised his eyebrows, and his lips curled into a devilish, lewd smile. Don't tell me you like it. I'm touching you. I'm touching your body. Poseidon deliberately lowered his voice. Ning Shu was speechless. Poseidon wanted to shake off Ning Shu's hand, but Ning Shu grabbed him and he could not shake it off. Poseidon smiled wickedly again. Do you like it when it's forced? I'm liking you more and more. Poseidon's blue eyes flashed with interest. If a woman was crying in fear, although it would be unappetizing, he would still be able to eat her. After all, a beauty with tears in her eyes would have a different flavor. But if it was like this, having sex with determination as if they were on the brink of death, it would definitely be more exciting. Poseidon also had many women. All the beautiful sirens or goddesses in the ocean had affairs with Poseidon. The king of the gods was a pervert. How could the atmosphere be good? Ning Shu said, God of the sea, are you really going to do such a thing? Do you not care about your reputation as a god of the sea and a goddess? What reputation? Trust me, this is a very pleasant thing. Trust me, you will fall in love with this feeling. Poseidon leaned close to Ning Shu's ear. Ning Shu quickly moved away, or he would lick her ear again. This feeling was even more disgusting than a dog licking a person after eating feces. Yes, it was not a matter of reputation. He was a god, and everything he did was right. There was no need to cover up. This was a normal thing, just like eating and drinking. These people were intoxicated by the level of indulgence they had reached. Ning Shu looked at Poseidon silently. Poseidon said, intoxicated, I like your eyes. They're so beautiful. Poseidon said as he stuck out his tongue, wanting to lick Ning Shu's eyes. Ning Shu was speechless. Damn it. Can't you be more beautiful? Although he was a god, he was no different from a mortal in front of lust. Ning Shu slapped Poseidon's face. She didn't know if it was just her imagination, but she felt Poseidon's breath on her face. It smelled like seawater. Anyway, it wasn't very comfortable, so Ning Shu gave him a big slap. If you want to talk, just talk. Why are you getting so close? Bang! Poseidon's head was knocked to the side by the force of Ning Shu's Chilan arm. Ning Shu let go of Poseidon's wrist and took 2 steps back. Poseidon slowly turned around, touched his face, and looked at Ning Shu coldly. His body exploded with the pressure of a god. How dare you blaspheme the gods? Poseidon had never been slapped in the face before, let alone by a weak and lowly priestess. Even a goddess wouldn't dare to touch him. Ning Shu put his hands behind his back. Blaspheme is nothing. Killing a god is not out of the question. You. Poseidon glared at Ning Shu. You're just a lowly human priestess. You want to kill a god? Just because you said that, I can destroy the entire human race. I am who I am. Why are you using humans to threaten me? Don't forget, there are also human heroes who slay gods. If the gods don't understand, humans will also rise up and fight back. The gods will then become demons in the mouths of humans and will no longer be respected gods. Ning Shu said with a smile. Humans would instinctively justify and rationalize their actions. Did she think that she could scare people by putting the fate of the human race on her shoulders? She couldn't bear it, and the humans wouldn't sympathize with her. Instead, they would spread her story. She was the ugly snake demon that people talked about. Poseidon laughed. I like you even more now. Those women are all submissive when they see me. They are afraid of my power. How dare you talk back to me? Ning Shu was speechless. Woman, you've successfully attracted my attention. You're different from other women. Ning Shu just wanted to roll his eyes. Did she really think that she was the domineering president of the heavenly realm? Ning Shu walked over to Poseidon's burly body. Ning Shu stepped back and looked at Poseidon. Ning Shu smiled charmingly. Don't come over. I'm warning you. Alright, let's play. Poseidon laughed. He looked at Ning Shu with a strong desire to conquer. Poseidon reached out his hand. A strange force pushed Ning Shu towards Poseidon. Ning Shu could not control her body. Her body floated towards Poseidon. Ning Shu did not struggle. She followed the force and approached Poseidon. Then, she gathered her chi in her dantian. She extended her leg and kicked Poseidon's chest. Poseidon was burly. Ning Shu's kick only made him take 2 steps back. It didn't hurt him. Poseidon grabbed Ning Shu's ankle and pulled. Little woman, come with me to the palace in the sea. Ning Shu did not say a word. She kicked Poseidon with her other leg. She spun her body and broke free from Poseidon's grip. Then, she stood on the floor as light as a feather. The bells on her ankles jingled. Ning Shu said, God of the sea, the goddess will be back soon. It's not good to do this in her palace. Poseidon touched his lips. His eyes were burning. There's nothing wrong with it. Poseidon didn't hold back with Ning Shu. It was okay to play around with him to liven things up, but he couldn't keep doing it. Poseidon appeared in front of Ning Shu in a flash. He grabbed Ning Shu's clothes and tore them apart. Ning Shu tore off the gauze that hung around him and wrapped it around his body. He released a huge dragon-shaped force and rushed towards Poseidon. The dragon rushed towards Poseidon. It was so fast that it pierced through Poseidon's body. The force of the impact caused Poseidon to crash into the wall of the temple. Cracks appeared on the wall. Poseidon clutched his chest. Such a strong force was enough to make his divine body hurt. Poseidon looked at the dragon. It was made of countless stars. It was ethereal. There was some spiritual energy in its eyes, but there was no life energy. Poseidon suddenly laughed. Ha ha ha. His laughter was so loud that the entire temple echoed with Poseidon's demonic laughter. Ning Shu's face was expressionless. What was he laughing about? I wonder if Athena knows that her priest isn't an ordinary person. I wonder what she's thinking. You betrayed God, hid it from her, and blasphemed against her. Ning Shu patted his chest. I'm so scared. I'm scared to death. So what if Athena knew? To watch late-night welfare movies, please follow the official WeChat account, Octet. Chapter 1854. Ning Shu knew that she was lowly, and no matter what she did, she would be blamed. Should she just lie down and let Poseidon do whatever he wanted? She had been bullied by Poseidon, and Athena wanted to punish her. Now that she resisted, she would still be punished. Ning Shu thought, what can I do? I'm desperate too. She was in a dilemma. Poseidon reached out his fan-like hand to grab Ning Shu, but Ning Shu did not move. The dragon rushed towards Poseidon and even coiled around his body. However, it was immediately shattered by Poseidon's power. Poseidon did not show it on his face, but he was shocked. He had to use almost half of his strength to get rid of this strange thing. The dispersing dragons of spirit chi gathered together and slammed into Poseidon. Poseidon took a few steps back, and Ning Shu flew out of the temple and stood in the air. Poseidon's expression was ugly. He could not take advantage of this woman. She was as slippery as a loach. He was annoyed by this chase. Poseidon took out his trident. It seemed like he was about to get serious. Poseidon said coldly, "Do you know that with a wave of my hand, the entire city of Athens will be swallowed by the sea?" Ning Shu was expressionless as he grinned. What a good-for-nothing. He did not rape the woman, and now he wanted to flood the city of Athens. Was the god so shameless and willful? So what if you flood the city of Athens? It's none of my business. I didn't do it. You can't scare me. Furthermore, Athens was not her city. She had no responsibility for it. Why did Poseidon think that she had to shoulder the responsibility of the entire human race? Even the stories passed down in the future were of Poseidon failing to steal the beauty and flooding the city of Athens. Moreover, Athena would not let him off. The reason why Athena did not cause trouble for Poseidon was because Medusa was insignificant. Athena also punished Medusa to vent her anger. However, if Poseidon flooded the city of Athens, Athena would definitely fight him to the death. Poseidon was speechless. I like you. I like you more and more. Poseidon was not angry. A white and golden warhorse galloped over and stopped beside Poseidon. Poseidon held the trident in one hand and extended his other hand. Come, I'll take you to see the sea. The scenery there is nothing a small temple can compare to. What's the point of being trapped in a small temple? Ning Shu raised his eyebrows and looked at Poseidon. Men's minds were disgusting. She was afraid that Poseidon was no longer thinking about conquering her body, but her soul. Perhaps it was an honor to be favored by Poseidon, but Ning Shu had seen too many people. Even if they were gods, they had great power as a cover and behaved worse than ordinary people. Ning Shu covered his mouth and smiled. He stroked his chin with the back of his hand, looking exceptionally beautiful. What does the sea god mean? Does the sea god want to take Medusa to see the vast ocean? You're right. I'll take you to see the vast world. It's better than being trapped in this small temple and being a priest. Poseidon had also thought it through. Getting a woman was nothing, but getting a woman's heart meant nothing. If he could get a woman's heart in his hands, he could do whatever he wanted. Her life would be his, and her life would be his. Poseidon had a bad temper and liked to cause trouble. He had clashed with many gods, but he was powerful and no one could say anything about it. Now, Poseidon seemed to have found something interesting. Since he was powerful, it was not a big deal to submit to him. It was better to submit to him wholeheartedly. Ning Shu looked at Poseidon's expression and understood what he was thinking. Ning Shu said, I don't care if I'm trapped in a small temple or in a beautiful world. I only care about my life. How far could an ant go in its life? How big was their world? I will guarantee your safety. Follow me and you will become a noble existence in the sea. You will be respected by the sirens. There are more creatures in the sea than on land, Poseidon said patiently. Humans were greedy and could not refuse a gift from a god. Ning Shu could not help but laugh in his heart. What kind of situation was this? You're beautiful, Poseidon said. By Athena's side, you'll be like a firefly competing with the starlight. What do you think will happen to you? Follow me. In this world, other than the king of gods and Hades, I'm the strongest. The endless sea is my territory. Ning Shu listened as Poseidon blew his own trumpet and dug his ears. She blew on her fingernails. When Poseidon was done, she said, "You wanted to rape me, and now you want me to go with you. Will I go with you? What do you mean by rape? I've said it before. This is a relationship between a man and a woman. Furthermore, this is a gift from God." Poseidon did not think that he had done anything wrong. Instead, it was Ning Shu who did not know how to appreciate his kindness. "I don't want to," Ning Shu said calmly. "I want to live according to my own wishes and choices. I want to live with dignity." "I think you're crazy." "What are you talking about?" Poseidon scolded Ning Shu. "Poseidon, you've come to my temple again. What are you up to this time?" Athena appeared in her armor. Ning Shu bowed to Athena. Athena looked at Ning Shu and saw that he was only wearing a thin veil. She could not help but ask, "Why are you wearing this?" Poseidon said directly, "I tore her clothes." "You don't have to blame her for this." Poseidon looked at Ning Shu as if he was a hero saving a damsel in distress. Ning Shu was speechless. "You're crazy. Do you think I should thank you? Disgusting man." Athena frowned and looked at Ning Shu, who was floating in the air. If one was not a god, one could not fly. However, this ordinary priest of hers could. Flying into the sky was the dream of many humans. Ning Shu felt that Athena was looking at him with confusion. She had a divine aura that made the wind and clouds change color. "Athena, if you give this priestess to me, I won't cause trouble in your temple anymore." "I don't care about the city of Athens," Poseidon said to Athena for Ning Shu. "You can't be so stingy. You can't even give away a priest, right?" Poseidon taunted Athena. Athena's expression did not change. She was not affected by Poseidon's provocation at all. Poseidon had a bad temper. Athena did not care about this provocation at all. To watch late-night welfare movies, please follow the official WeChat account, Octit. Chapter 1855. What caught Athena's attention was, "When did you two meet? Did you meet in my temple?" Poseidon laughed and said proudly, "Your priestess loves me, but she can't leave the temple because of your strict rules. You're an old virgin, so you forbade your servants from having sex with men. She can't leave, so she asked me to ask you to give her to me." Ning Shu was speechless. "Fuck, this bitch." Athena's expression immediately turned ugly. She looked at Ning Shu with a sharp gaze and asked, "But is this really the case? Did the two of you do something improper in my temple?" Sparks of lightning crackled on Athena's body. Her golden armor flashed with lightning, making a terrifying sizzling sound. Athena was angry. Ning Shu wanted to give Poseidon a tight slap across his face for spouting such nonsense. There was no way she could defend herself. Athena would definitely believe Poseidon, not a lowly priestess like her. Ning Shu looked at the shameless Poseidon. She wanted to chop him up and break his trident. "Goddess, please believe me. I did not have an affair with Poseidon, and I did not do anything inappropriate in the temple." Ning Shu had no choice but to defend herself. She knew that Athena would not believe her. Poseidon sat on the golden chariot and said proudly, "Athena, I did do something inappropriate with your little priestess. It's normal for the heavens and the earth to make love." "Shut up, bitch." Ning Shu released a spirit dragon and attacked Poseidon. The dragon roared and charged at Poseidon, and the two of them began to fight. Athena looked at the roaring dragon in the sky, then narrowed her eyes and looked at Ning Shu. "You seem to be hiding something from me. Do you know the consequences of lying to a god? Athena held her scepter in her left hand and her shield in her right. She looked coldly at Ning Shu. Ning Shu was now an ant who had offended a god. There was no right or wrong. This was a god's world, and what the god said was right. If the god said you were wrong, then you were wrong. If you were wrong, then you had to be punished. I have some power, but I have never done anything that betrays a god. Ning Shu said. He had offended two people in a row today. One was Poseidon, and the other was Athena. They were all main gods who had a place on Mount Olympus. The damned Poseidon actually said that he had an affair with her, and that he was cheating on her in the temple of Athena. Ning Shu, what can I say? I'm desperate too. God's words were divine. There was a price to pay for offending a god. Ning Shu have to pay the price of facing two major gods. Then let me ask you. How did a human like you get your power? Where did this power come from? If there is even the slightest bit of deception, it will be blasphemy. Athena would not allow anything to happen to her city. She did not even know the background of her own priest. Why would someone with power be lurking around him? I'm not happy. I'm angry. Ning Shu, what should I say? Who gave you this power? Athena asked again. Generally speaking, only the gods had power. Ordinary humans did not have power at all. Her power was bestowed upon her by me, Poseidon said righteously after easily dispersing the dragon. No matter how many times Poseidon scattered the dragon's energy, the dragon would always be able to recover. It was not a physical object. The recovered dragon charged at Poseidon again. It did not know fatigue and was never exhausted. Ning Shu was speechless when she heard Poseidon shamelessly claim that her powers were bestowed upon her by Poseidon. He had never known the god of the sea to be so shameless. Poseidon did this on purpose to provoke conflict between Ning Shu and Athena. Athena was proud and arrogant. How could she tolerate Ning Shu's deception? Ning Shu knew that it would take some effort for him to leave today. No matter what, he would offend Athena. Ning Shu glanced at the smug Poseidon. Fine, don't mess with me. Ning Shu was determined to kill Poseidon. Even if he was brothers with Zeus and Hades, he would kill him. The truth needed power. No matter what he did, he needed power to protect it. Bastard Poseidon, the stinky salted fish, has taken a fancy to my beauty. I have nothing to do with him. I can swear to God. Ning Shu's chi entered her dantian and spread her voice far and wide. The entire city of Athens could hear Ning Shu's voice. Ning Shu shouted, Goddess, Poseidon broke into the temple when you were not there. He wanted to do something to me and sully your temple. Please, Goddess, help me. I will devote my life to you with no regrets. You can talk nonsense. I can talk nonsense too. Ning Shu shouted again, Please, Goddess, believe me. I am willing to accept a body check. I have nothing to do with Poseidon. I did not do anything improper. Poseidon wanted to rape a priestess, but he did not succeed. Everyone would laugh at him. A romantic affair was nothing, but a man's dignity was a big deal. The people of Athens looked in the direction of the temple. They did not know what was going on, but since there was a show to watch, they all gathered around the temple. When Poseidon heard Ning Shu's words, his expression darkened. However, when he saw Athena's dark expression, he suddenly laughed and said, Athena, this priestess of yours is interesting. She slandered two main gods. Blasphemy. Athena said calmly, she thinks she's smart. Athens is my city. How dare she incite my followers to question my authority? Unforgivable. Poseidon laughed. You can punish her, but after that, you have to give her to me. Poseidon suddenly said, the human priestess Medusa has offended my authority. If she is not punished today, I will flood the entire city of Athens. The people who did not know what was going on were shocked. They had only come to watch the show. Poseidon wanted to flood the entire city of Athens. If he did not punish the priestess, the city of Athens would meet its end. Humans were good at sacrificing a small portion to protect the majority. If punishing a woman in exchange for the safety of the entire city of Athens, it was worth it. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu looked at the people who were like ants rushing to the temple from all directions. Their faces were filled with fear. God was omnipotent. If God wanted to punish them, they would not be able to resist. Now, everyone only wanted to punish Ning Shu quickly and extinguish God's anger. To watch a late-night welfare movie, please follow the official WeChat account, Octit. Chapter 1856. Poseidon purposely said this to incite the humans' fear of the gods and their hatred of Ning Shu. Poseidon sat on the golden chariot and said to Ning Shu, "If you beg me, I can pardon you." Poseidon felt that he had found something interesting. The more stubborn the other party was, the more unwilling they were to bow down. When they were helpless and had nowhere to go, they would bow down. That would be a happy feeling. Just like how he had conquered one powerful opponent after another. Look at your silly face. It's as if you can do anything to me. Even if you're the sea god, you're just a fool with a fork. You're just a smug fool. Ning Shu rolled her eyes. You blaspheme the gods again and again. Have you thought about the consequences? I have decided to throw you into the sea and let the sea monsters tear you to pieces. Poseidon was a proud and bad-tempered person. His pride did not allow him to bow down to a human. He had tolerated her before, but that did not mean he could trample on the god's dignity. Ning Shu put his hands on his hips. I will tear the sea monsters apart first. Athena looked coldly at the arrogant Ning Shu and pointed her scepter at him. I don't care who you made a deal with or where you got your power, but the god's dignity cannot be violated. There was no room for negotiation. It was as if she had betrayed the gods, not been abandoned by them. What dignity? It is just despotic power. The gods are abusing humans. One day, humans will take up weapons and kill the gods. Since they had fallen out, Ning Shu did not intend to be polite. The words, killing the gods, had been hovering above the city of Athens. Humans had to pay a price for their faith. For example, Athena taught them weaving, painting, sculpting, pottery, animal husbandry, and other skills. Therefore, humans believed in her. However, if they wanted more and these gods could not give them, when their power surpassed that of the gods, they would take up weapons and kill the gods. Athena, who had always been indifferent, was furious when she heard the words, killing the gods. Her eyebrows were raised, and she seemed to be extremely angry. Dark clouds gathered in the sky and the sky changed color. When the onlookers who didn't know the truth heard the words, God slaying, they were at a loss and at a loss. They knelt down in fear and panic. Slaying a god was simply disgraceful. The entire sky darkened, and the entire sky was locked down, making people feel extremely oppressed and terrified. They trembled as they begged for God's forgiveness. Athena, your priestess must have been corrupted by some evil power. That's why she dares to challenge the gods. Poseidon said coldly. When it came to the status of gods in the hearts of humans, Poseidon became serious. He stood on the golden chariot and looked at Ning Shu. His eyes were red, and he looked extremely cruel. Poseidon held the trident in his hand and summoned the wind and rain. At this moment, he was furious. Monsters would appear at the bottom of the sea, and as long as Poseidon waved the trident, he could cause tsunamis and earthquakes. He could set off monstrous waves, shatter the earth, and shake the mountains and rivers. The entire city of Athens seemed to be on the verge of collapse, and the sound of the waves crashing against the land could be heard. Even the ground was trembling. Under the power of heaven and earth, humans were like weak ants. They couldn't resist at all and could only tremble. Some people couldn't stand the fear of an impending disaster and suddenly shouted, "Burn the witch, burn the witch." After one person shouted, the others followed suit. Countless people shouted at the top of their lungs, resounding through the clouds and even overshadowing the roar of the distant sea. Ning Shu was now the enemy of the gods. Not only did the gods have great power, but they also had humans who were forced by the gods' power. Ning Shu was like a broken boat in the sea. Under such power, she would be destroyed by a single wave. Her current actions were like a mantis trying to stop a car, and a mayfly trying to shake a tree. Ning Shu looked at the roaring sea in the distance and smiled. It was a good opportunity to test how her power of laws worked in this world. How would the power of the sea, driven by the trident, compare to her power of laws? Ning Shu's expression didn't change in the face of such a situation. The real threat to her was the gods with great power, not the humans who only knew how to burn her. Ning Shu looked at Poseidon with a face that said, "Love me, are you afraid?" The expressionless Poseidon smiled faintly. His eyes were exquisite and resplendent. Even the dark clouds could not suppress the radiance of his tranquil beauty, illuminating the sky. Poseidon was amazed by the beauty of this woman and her bad temper. Conquering such a woman would require time and ability, but it would also be a great accomplishment. Ning Shu pointed at the roaring sea from afar, and his mind moved. Just this action alone was exceptionally beautiful. She only had a thin layer of gauze on her body, but she felt an unshakable power. Poseidon and Athena were surprised by Ning Shu's action. Athena gripped her scepter tightly. Her priestess must be controlled or seduced by some evil power. Her words were disgraceful. God was supreme, and anyone who blasphemed against God had to pay with their lives. If a person blasphemed against God, they had to pay with their life. If a country blasphemed against God, it had to pay with the fate of the country. She would be cursed and punished. Athena decided to punish this priestess. Ning Shu used the power of laws, and the roaring sea calmed down. It was as calm as a mirror, without any ripples. Poseidon was confused. What was going on? Poseidon quickly waved his trident, trying to control the sea. The sea roared and rushed to the shore, flooding some places. Ning Shu pointed, and the water that rushed to the shore retreated. The sea returned to calm. Poseidon almost twisted his jaw. This was unprecedented. He was the god of the sea, but he could not control the power of the sea. How could he still be called the god of the sea? Poseidon raised his trident and waved it quickly. The sea became terrifying, and the waves were thousands of feet high. Lightning flashed and thunder roared on the surface of the sea. It was as if the whole world was going to be destroyed. The people on the land trembled and knelt on the ground, begging for mercy. Ning Shu pointed her finger, and the horrifying hurricane waves slowly stopped, and the sea returned to its calm state. Ning Shu also set up a barrier on the surface of the sea. Poseidon's face was pale. His eyes were red, and he was very angry. He kept waving his trident. But the sea was very calm. No matter how he waved his trident, it was useless. He had lost the ability to control the sea. Poseidon roared and waved his trident, but the sea did not respond. Poseidon was so angry that he almost threw his trident away. To watch late-night welfare movies, please follow the official WeChat account, Octit. Chapter 1857. Poseidon's trident had been given to him by the Cyclops during the Battle of Titan. It had considerable power. If a trident was used as a weapon, not only could it easily set off huge waves of tsunamis and gales, drowning the earth, but it could also shatter everything. It could even trigger a powerful earthquake in the entire world. The trident of Poseidon was not only used as a weapon, but also as a tool to break rocks. Poseidon used the trident to break rocks so that spring water would flow out from the cracks in the rocks to water the earth. This was why Poseidon was also known as the god of harvest. Poseidon's trident was very powerful. It could bring benefits to humans, but it could also bring harm to them. In essence, most of Poseidon's power came from the trident. It was not because Poseidon had mastered the power of the sea, but because the trident could create tsunamis and hurricanes. It was not because Poseidon had mastered the power of the sea. Hence, Ning Shu's power of laws, especially the pure power of laws, was defeated. Ning Shu chanted Amitabha in her heart, thanking the gods. It was because of their existence that the suppression of this plane wasn't so great. This was awesome. Poseidon was so anxious that his face turned red. He waved his trident, but it could not create any waves. The sea was calm and peaceful. It did not give him any face at all. Athena looked at the red-faced Poseidon and frowned. She asked, "What's wrong with you?" Even Pluto was afraid of the power of the trident. He was worried that it would cause the entire universe to collapse and expose Pluto's underworld. Now, there was not even a fart. It was too awkward. How would I know what's going on? Poseidon was so angry that he stabbed the trident into the ground. The ground immediately cracked, and the entire city of Athens shook. The immense power of the trident caused the earth to tremble. The city of Athens was thrown into chaos. Houses collapsed, and cries could be heard everywhere. Some people were even buried under the collapsed walls. Furthermore, Athena's temple had to endure the intense tremors. If it wasn't for the divine power protecting the temple, it would have collapsed by now. Athena was furious. She sent a bolt of lightning at Poseidon. "Poseidon, you destroyed Athens. You destroyed my city. I'm not done with you." Poseidon saw that the power of the trident was still there, but for some reason, it could not create tsunamis or waves. Poseidon's attention was on his weapon. Athena's lightning struck him, and even his beard was smoking. Poseidon was speechless. "I won't argue with you for now. My weapon is broken." Poseidon opened his hand. The trident shook and flew out of the ground and into his hand. Poseidon waved his trident in an attempt to create another wave, but the surface of the sea remained calm. Occasionally, a small fish would jump out of the water and swim away with its tail wagging. Poseidon bit, pulled, and hammered the trident, hoping that the broken trident could be repaired. Ning Shu watched silently from the side. It would be great if Poseidon and Athena really started fighting. Then, she would run away. How could she stay in the temple and be a priestess in this situation? She stayed to avenge Athena. Now, the whole city was in ruins under the destruction of the muscular Poseidon. Humans and animals were dying. Athena was crazy. She had only tarnished the temple. She had turned Medusa into an ugly snake demon. No one dared to look into Medusa's eyes. Otherwise, they would turn into stone. Now that such a disaster had happened, Athena would probably chop her into minced meat. Athena's face darkened. She began to attack Poseidon, who was messing with his weapon. Poseidon was anxious, but Athena was beside him. She kept nagging him, giving him goosebumps. "Can you fucking stop talking? Let me fucking fiddle with my weapon." Poseidon was a bad-tempered person. Now that Athena was attacking him, he did not back down at all. The two of them started fighting. When the gods fought, the mortals suffered. The pressure from the two of them made the people in the city suffer. Either lightning fell from the sky or an earthquake occurred. As the two of them fought, more and more people were injured. Many people knelt down and prayed to the gods. Athena, who was dizzy from anger, suddenly came to her senses. If they continued fighting, her city would fall into chaos and turmoil. "There's something wrong with your weapon. You should ask her what she did." Athena pointed at Ning Shu, who was watching the fight. Ning Shu's expression was blank and innocent. "What did I do? You guys continue to fight. Don't mind me, don't mind me." Poseidon looked at Ning Shu with bloodshot eyes. It's you. It's you. He had caused several tsunamis, but they were all diffused by this woman with a light tap of her finger. Poseidon was furious. What was he going to do without the sea? He had lost his territory. When he defeated the Demon King, the former God King, and drew lots to divide the world into 3 parts. On the surface, the sea, the land, and the air were equally divided among the 3 brothers, but the internal power distribution was obviously not balanced. Zeus often said that he would pull the land and sea together and hang them on Mount Olympus. Poseidon had to respect Zeus's position as the king of gods, but he was not convinced. The earthquakes and tsunamis were his manifestations of his anger. Wasn't this giving Zeus a chance? He could not control the sea. What could be more tragic than this? Zeus would take the opportunity to control the sea. Would his big brother, Hades, take the opportunity to mess with him? Poseidon was full of enemies anyway. He had even kidnapped his sister-in-law. Poseidon and Zeus were both lustful. Hades, on the other hand, was very fair and strong, but had a peaceful personality. Other than taking Persephone, the daughter of the goddess of harvest, as his wife, he did not do anything evil. Hades had a cold personality. His 2 brothers were married and had many lovers. He was a single wife and had no lovers. One day, he fell in love with the daughter of the goddess of harvest and wanted to marry her. This news caused a sensation in the 3 realms. When Poseidon heard the news, he kidnapped Hades as queen of the underworld to his sea palace. Then Hades came to ask for her, and Poseidon provoked his big brother. XHTML. Chapter 1858. He was about to get married, and Hades had kidnapped his wife. Now he was here to take her back, and Hades was trying to provoke him. The underworld king was extremely angry. He stood in front of Ocean Palace and scolded and beat up this idiot. Then, he carried his wife back. Which normal person would do such a thing? Hades was the 2nd oldest son. However, Hades was a devoted man. He had only 1 wife and no other lovers. He was one of the best in the world. Now that Poseidon had lost control of the ocean, his first thought was whether his 2 brothers would take advantage of him. Athena and Poseidon stared at Ning Shu. Ning Shu waved his hand. Don't look at me. I'm scared. I didn't do anything. Don't be scared. I'm not a good person. Poseidon pointed his trident at Ning Shu. His bloodshot eyes stared at Ning Shu as he scrutinized her. What have you done? Or did you get some evil power from somewhere? Power is power. There's no such thing as good or evil, Ning Shu said. I think your power is evil. He could split mountains, split the sea, and cause earthquakes and tsunamis. Wasn't that evil? Ha ha. Poseidon laughed coldly. He decided to capture Ning Shu and see how he could control the ocean. Poseidon thrust his trident at Ning Shu. With the power of the sky, it roared as if it could shatter the whole world. Although the trident could not create a tsunami, its other powers were very strong. Ning Shu, who was locked on by the trident, felt goosebumps all over his body. He realized that Athena's temple was behind him, so he deliberately ran towards it. Athena was so angry that her face turned black. She waved her scepter and tried to deflect the trident. If the trident hit her temple, it would definitely be damaged. Even if the temple was protected by divine power, the city of Athens would definitely experience an earthquake. With such a powerful force, the entire city of Athens would probably be turned into ruins. Athena was furious. Poseidon was a pig. Even if he wanted to fight, he could not do it in her temple. Moreover, Ning Shu deliberately hid in the temple, which made Athena even angrier. If something happened to her temple, she would not rest until she was dead. The power of Athena's scepter collided with the power of Poseidon's trident. Although the collision missed the temple, it caused a strong earthquake. Boom! 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 The entire city of Athens was filled with dust, and the walls collapsed. It was truly a ruined city, and it would be difficult to rebuild it. Athena was so angry that she lashed out at Poseidon. Are you stupid? As for the destruction of Athena's city, Poseidon was not affected at all. He did not care at all. Anyway, it's not my city. Athena almost vomited blood when she saw Poseidon's nonchalant attitude. Damn it, Poseidon was simply an idiot. Ning Shu poked his head out of the temple. When he saw that he was out of danger, he immediately patted his chest with a look of fear. He had successfully angered Athena. In my name, I curse you to become an ugly snake demon. Anyone who looks into your eyes will be turned to stone forever, Athena muttered as she held her scepter. A black smoke with the power of the curse floated towards Ning Shu. The power of the plot was really strong. Even if she was not raped by Poseidon and did not do anything to tarnish the temple, she would still be cursed by Athena into an ugly snake demon. The black smoke floated in front of Ning Shu and rushed into Ning Shu's forehead. A cold power of the curse swirled in Ning Shu's body. Ning Shu felt as if all the cells in his body were being torn apart and reassembled. He had turned from a human into a snake demon. Even his genes were different. Ning Shu looked at Athena indifferently. Although she did not tarnish the temple, she had caused the city of Athens to suffer such a great loss. Even the temple was a little damaged. It was normal for Athena to curse her. Athena looked at Ning Shu, waiting for Ning Shu to turn into an ugly snake demon. When she saw that Ning Shu's expression did not change, she could not help but frown. As my priest, you should be punished for doing such a thing. The dignity of a god cannot be tarnished. The majesty of a god cannot be tarnished. This was related to the respect and reverence that humans had for gods. Ning Shu simply said, it was Poseidon who started this from the beginning. If you really want to punish the culprit, you should turn Poseidon into an ugly snake demon. She could not do anything to Poseidon, so she had to show the majesty of a god. You are a god. You are beautiful and handsome. Everything you say is right. Athena frowned. The power of the curse had not yet taken effect. Furthermore, he did not seem to be in pain at all. His expression did not change. This made Athena feel very frustrated. Who did you make a deal with to obtain such evil power? What is your goal? Or do you want to target the gods of Olympus? Why do you care who I made a deal with? My power is not evil. Ning Shu said with a smile. He clasped his hands behind his back and pointed at the distant sea. Droplets of water slowly floated up from the calm surface of the sea. Finally, they gathered into human figures. There were men and women in dresses. They hugged each other and danced. There were many people dancing on the calm surface of the sea. It was a beautiful sight. Under the water, beautiful colorful fish gathered to form beautiful patterns. It was like a vast stage. The people on the stage sang and danced without any worries. They were very happy. Athena and Poseidon were both gods. Naturally, they could see the situation in the distance. Poseidon's eyes almost fell out. What kind of power was this? He could not do this. Is this the power of evil? Ning Shu said with a smile. Looking at Poseidon, he said, you are not the god of the sea. You cannot control the sea or the water. You can only violently create tsunamis and huge waves. Wherever I am, I will take away your control of the sea and the water. The droplet mark between Ning Shu's eyebrows loomed. With a strong will, it surged toward Poseidon. Poseidon was shocked by this power and took 2 steps back. Who are you? I am the god of the sea appointed by the god king. My power is not something you can take away. Poseidon's face was pale, and his eyes were red as he stared at Ning Shu. Poseidon did not believe it. He held his trident and waved it, wanting to create a tsunami. However, the sea was still calm. Countless people in the water danced tirelessly and elegantly. Men and women danced happily. Their bodies were light, and they made all kinds of beautiful poses. XHTML. Chapter 1859. Poseidon was shocked. Looking at the calm waves, he waved his trident. Not only did it not create a tsunami, but it also made the water people on the water jump even more happily. I am the god of the sea. I am the god of the sea. Poseidon was furious. He kept waving his trident, but it was useless. Poseidon's eyes were so red that his pupils could not be seen. What did you do to me? Poseidon shouted, flustered and exasperated. Ning Shu shrugged. I didn't do anything. Poseidon was now as anxious as a dog biting its own tail. It was related to the territory he controlled. Now that it was out of control, his power would be reduced by more than half. The three leaders of Olympus would no longer live up to their names. Athena frowned. Why was her curse not taking effect yet? There was not even a hint of pain. The black smoke of the curse floated out of Ning Shu's body. The curse could not do anything to Ning Shu. The smoke floated towards Athena, and because the curse could not affect a person, the curse returned to Athena's body. Athena waved her hand, and the black smoke of the curse dissipated. Athena was surprised that her power could not curse Ning Shu. Ning Shu smiled. She had bought the halo of faith for nothing. The halo of faith could resist any curse. Ning Shu remembered that he had bought the halo of faith a long time ago, but it had not been used. Today, it had resisted Athena's curse. Back then, when he was cursed by Zhang Jiasen, he had decided to buy the halo of faith. It was the first time it had been used. In the future, when he was free, he would buy more items to protect himself. Who knew when they would come in handy? Poseidon and Athena could not do anything to Ning Shu now, unless they used the power of a god to suppress Ning Shu. The most frustrating thing for Athena was that she could not curse Ning Shu. Who did you get the power from? Was it the evil god? Athena asked Ning Shu. She knew that her priest was an ordinary person with no power. Now that he had suddenly gained such power, there must be a reason. Ning Shu shrugged and said nothing. Ning Shu regretted that she had not learned the art of curses. Otherwise, she would have been able to deal with Athena. To curse someone, one had to pay a corresponding price. It was an equivalent exchange. It was better to use his strength to defeat someone and not use his own things to curse someone. Ning Shu smiled and asked Athena, what is the principle behind this curse? Even the dignified and elegant Athena couldn't help but sneer. Her eyebrows were raised, and her eyes were especially sharp. Now he asked her about the art of cursing. Did he want to take it back? Why did she think that he would tell her? She was too arrogant. Ning Shu did not expect Athena to tell him about curses. Their relationship was like fire and water, and they were at odds with each other. A giant dragon appeared behind Ning Shu. Ning Shu stood on the dragon's head and looked down at the two. Goodbye. I'll be leaving first. See you later. He would retreat temporarily and cultivate for a while. If he met Poseidon and Athena again, he would not have to be afraid. You want to leave? Dream on. The furious Poseidon stabbed Ning Shu with his trident. He looked as if he hated Ning Shu so much that he wanted to chew him alive. Ning Shu smiled and opened his hand. His energy turned into a similar trident. Ning Shu held the trident and did not retreat. Instead, he rushed toward Poseidon. The real and fake trident collided with each other with an earth-shattering sound. A powerful shockwave spread out in all directions. The buildings that were affected by the shockwave were reduced to dust. Even the temple of Athena trembled twice and was on the verge of collapse. When the two collided, Ning Shu and Poseidon were both sent flying by each other's energy. The trident in Ning Shu's hand turned into spiritual energy and rushed to Ning Shu's dantian. Ning Shu shook his hand and felt a little numb. Poseidon's brain was simple, but his limbs were well developed and his strength was limitless. Ning Shu's arm was numb from the shock, and she felt a slight pain. Her internal organs felt as if they had shifted positions. Barbarian! Ning Shu cursed Poseidon in his heart. Poseidon was also shocked. He looked at Ning Shu with his scarlet eyes. How could such a weak body explode with such power? Even he could not withstand it. Poseidon felt that this woman was laughing at him in her heart when he said that he wanted to have sex with her. The dignity of a god could not be humiliated. Poseidon's eyes turned even redder. The violent factor in his blood boiled. Poseidon shouted, and the dancing water people on the surface of the sea collapsed. They turned into droplets of water and fell into the sea. Poseidon was, after all, the god of the sea. He had some control over the sea. His angry roar caused the entire sea to tremble. The sea monsters were speechless. The sea monsters in the sea felt like they were going to vomit. They tossed and turned endlessly. Poseidon was losing control of his emotions. His eyes were like a mad bull. All he could see was Ning Shu. He swore to tear Ning Shu to pieces. Athena saw that her city and temple were in ruins. She was so angry that her face turned green. Her armor crackled with the power of thunder. She gripped her scepter so tightly that her knuckles turned white. The veins on the back of her bronze hands bulged. Damn it, these two people had turned her city and temple into a battlefield. They had done whatever they wanted without any scruples. Poseidon raised his trident, which exploded with a powerful force. However, this time, Poseidon was facing Athena. Athena used her scepter to block Poseidon's trident. The shockwaves from the battle between the two main gods were stronger than the shockwaves from the battle between Poseidon and Ning Shu. The shockwaves from the battle caused one of the walls of Athena's temple to collapse. The wall fell towards the golden statue of Athena. The huge statue shook twice, but fortunately, it did not collapse. Even the temple, which had been reinforced by divine power, had collapsed, let alone the entire city of Athens. The earthquake continued to cause cracks to appear one after another. Some people even fell into the cracks. Fortunately, the people next to them were quick enough to grab hold of them. Screams filled the air. The humans of Athens kept praying to Athena, hoping that the god would take back the punishment. Ning Shu thought about it and set up a huge barrier. This barrier was made of water to protect the city of Athens from the shockwaves. The humans of Athens had no direct conflict with Ning Shu. She was here to counterattack. She was here to counterattack for one person. She did not want to implicate others. Speaking of which, the previous Medusa was just a weak human. What are you doing? Poseidon was furious that Athena had stopped him. His nostrils twitched as he roared. XHTML. Chapter 1860. The moment Poseidon's trident and Athena's scepter came into contact, the resulting explosion almost shattered Ning Shu's enchantment. Ning Shu pointed his finger, and the water in the well gushed out to replenish the enchantment. Poseidon, if you want to fight, get out of my city. Take her to the sea if you can. Athena was now afraid of the consequences. She also wanted to get rid of the priest. However, she allowed the two to fight without restraint. If her temple and city were to collapse, this matter would become a joke at Mount Hermit Gods. Athena would always be a laughingstock. Get out of my way, Athena, or I'll beat you up too. Poseidon's expression was irritable and mocking. Your priestess has committed such treason and blasphemy against the gods, and you still want to protect her. Athena's expression was as cold as iron. She gritted her teeth and said, get out of my city and temple. One after another, they wantonly fought in front of her house, destroying her city and seriously affecting her prestige in the hearts of her believers. Ning Shu watched from the side as Poseidon and Athena fought. It was none of his business, so he remained calm and indifferent. Occasionally, he would repair the enchantment. Li Suha, Poseidon, and Athena stood in a triangle, fighting against each other. If the three of them joined the fight at the same time, Athena's temple would probably be destroyed. Ahem. Ning Shu coughed, trying to get Poseidon and Athena's attention. Do you need me to join the fight? If not, I'll take my leave, Ning Shu said. Poseidon and Athena retreated at the same time, surrounding Ning Shu. It seemed that they were going to work together to capture Ning Shu. Who are you? My priest has no power. She's just an ordinary human, Athena said suspiciously. Ning Shu flipped his hair, then put his hands on his hips and said, Of course I'm Medusa. Have you seen anyone as beautiful as me? Athena looked at the smug Ning Shu in silence. This face was indeed Medusa's, but Medusa did not have such power. She could even control Poseidon's ocean. Athena was surprised that this human suddenly had the power to resist the gods. This was a serious matter. If humans could obtain such power from unknown sources, would they still submit to the gods? Would they be a threat to the gods of Olympus? Would there be a war between the humans and the gods? Would the humans slaughter the gods? Slaughter the gods. Athena was a god, so she naturally had to consider the interests of other gods. When humans lost their respect, faith, and worship for the gods, many gods would fall. As long as you tell me how you became like this, I can spare your life. You can even be my spokesperson and still be a priest of the temple, Athena said. I can't become Athena's priestess. Athena is afraid of me and hates me. I have to crawl on the ground every day. I don't want to work as a priestess anymore. I'm going to jump ship. Why are you saying so much to him? Just do as I say and capture him. Everything will be clear, Poseidon said. Poseidon said directly. He was eager to capture Ning Shu and force her to tell him the secret of controlling the sea and the water. Even Poseidon admitted that his control of the sea and water was not as exquisite as this woman's. He could only use his trident to create tsunamis and hurricanes, but he could not change the shape of the water into what he wanted. If he could master this power, he would be able to make Zeus even more powerful and oust him from the throne. His power would increase by leaps and bounds. Athena's face darkened when she heard Poseidon's reckless behavior. It was easy for him to say, but it would not be easy to capture him. Did he want her city to be destroyed and her temple to be ruined? There were too many things that Athena was worried about, so she had to be careful when she attacked. Ning Shu stood on the dragon's head and laughed. He said to Poseidon, Come and catch me. If you catch me, I'll let you. Poseidon was speechless. Damned woman. Poseidon had only come to steal the beauty, but he did not expect things to turn out this way. He had actually lost to a mere human woman. At the same time, Poseidon found the opportunity to truly master the power of the sea and the water. As long as he caught this woman and swallowed her, he would become even more powerful. Just like how Zeus swallowed his lover and gave birth to Athena from her head. Now, swallowing a human would be a piece of cake. Ning Shu flew over and reached out his fan-like hand, trying to catch Ning Shu. Ning Shu's dragon carried Ning Shu far away. Don't run if you dare. Poseidon's face darkened. Ning Shu sat on the dragon's head, his long legs wobbling. Ning Shu said, Catch me if you dare. Athena held her scepter, which flashed with lightning. A bolt of lightning struck at Ning Shu. Ning Shu hurriedly dodged. Like her father, Zeus, Athena had also mastered the power of lightning. Not to mention that the power of lightning was very painful, and would cause one to be severely injured. Her thin veil would certainly be burned to ashes. Then she would have to run naked. The power of thunder hit the tail of the Qijin giant dragon, making crackling sounds. The giant dragon's body stiffened, and finally, it collapsed. The lightning passed through Ning Shu's body, making Ning Shu's body go numb. Ning Shu pointed at Athena. Athena was trapped in a bubble-like barrier. But Athena was strong enough to break the barrier. Ning Shu quickly wrapped himself in the veil. He didn't want to show such a beautiful body to others, especially when Poseidon was here. Although the dragon had dispersed, it quickly reformed. Ning Shu stood on top of the dragon's head. Her laughter was melodious and moving. Bye-bye. I'll take my leave first. Today's matter, I'll repay you another day. Ning Shu said. He pointed his finger and broke the barrier around Athens. The dragon flew very quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was a small black dot. Stop right there. Poseidon chased after Ning Shu. He was determined to kill her. In the blink of an eye, Poseidon's body was also a small black dot. Athena looked at the ruined city of Athens and the ruined temple. If it wasn't for the divine power protecting the temple would have been turned into sand by now. It would have been blown into sand by the powerful wind. Athena's expression turned ugly. She had to catch the priest and obtain the priest's secrets. XHTML. Chapter 1861. Athena released her divine power and restored her temple to its original state. Upon closer inspection, one could see cracks and blemishes on her huge statue. Athena pursed her lips and looked at the ruined city of Athens. She said loudly, "My dear believers, the reason why the city of Athens has become like this is because the priest beside me has obtained a powerful evil power and destroyed the entire city. Now, this evil priestess is on the run. If any brave warrior can cut off the head of this evil priestess, he or she will be blessed and protected by the gods." Athena's voice echoed throughout the city of Athens. The sorrowful people were furious and swore to kill the evil priestess. Athena swore to cut off Ning Shu's head and put it on her shield. While Athena was furious, Ning Shu was running in front with Poseidon chasing after her relentlessly. Poseidon gritted his teeth and looked at Ning Shu. He used all his strength to rush in front of Ning Shu and stop her. Ning Shu stood on the dragon's head and looked at the red-eyed Poseidon. "Why are you chasing me?" Poseidon looked at Ning Shu's beautiful face and said, "Who are you?" "No, who you are is none of my business. I don't care who you are. I will devour you and obtain your power." "Then why are you chasing me?" "You're lusting after my beauty," Ning Shu said with her hands on her hips. She was so tired that she put her hands on her hips and rested. Compared to lust, power was what Poseidon wanted. No matter how beautiful Ning Shu was, she could not stop Poseidon from wanting to devour her. Besides, she was a feast for the eyes. Wouldn't it be better to devour her? Poseidon suddenly laughed and said, "What if I say that I love you and want to take you away and make you my queen?" This woman was very cautious and had slipped away. Since he could not take her by force, he could only use his wits. For the sake of power, Poseidon, who was all brawn and no brains, had no choice but to think of a way to coax Ning Shu to his side. "Don't you think that we complement each other? You can control the sea, and so can I. We were born to be together." Ning Shu, _Poseidon, I remember that you have many women. Other than your wife, you also have many lovers. You even love your sister. Ning Shu clicked his tongue. Poseidon had made his younger brother Zeus his life goal. Poseidon also loved his sister. How interesting. The entire Greek mythology was a complicated history. It was hard to imagine how chaotic and unclear the relationships between the two were. "What do you mean?" Poseidon's red eyes slowly returned to normal. "You want to go with me? Is it because you care about my lovers? Women should not be so jealous." Ning Shu really wanted to spit on Poseidon's face. Then tell me, what benefits do I get from going with you? First, your body does not belong to me alone. Second, your heart does not belong to me alone. Third, you are not as powerful as I am. Fourth, I do not love you. So what do I want? Ning Shu asked, surprised. You are the one getting all the benefits. Why are you acting like you are giving me a gift? I am one of the 3 heads of Olympus. I am the ruler of the sea and one of the 12 main gods. Poseidon planned to use his identity to attract Ning Shu. Ning Shu curled her lips. Your identities don't tempt me at all. So what if you're one of the 3 magnates? You can't control the power of the ocean. I don't think serving a god is a glorious thing. If you follow me, I can give you a divine position and title. You will become a god and receive the worship of humans. Poseidon was getting impatient. He had already taken out so many bargaining chips and sincerity. As long as this woman went to the sea palace with him, he would have a way to control her. Ning Shu did not care about the divine position and title. It did not matter whether he was a god or a human. What was important was his ability and power. If Poseidon was strong enough to deal with her, he would not have talked so much to her. Ning Shu felt that this big and burly Poseidon was actually not very sincere. He must have some ulterior motives to say that he loved her and wanted to take her away. Poseidon's eyes were red with jealousy. He must have been coveting her power of the law of water. Poseidon must have been sick with jealousy. I love you. Love my ass. There is no such thing as love for no reason, and there is no such thing as hatred for no reason. Also, Poseidon had a big beard. If the handsome sun god Apollo had said that, it would have been a little confusing. He was not handsome enough. Ning Shu did not feel anything. He even wanted to laugh. He did not just say that he loved her. That was true love. What do you mean? Poseidon asked, trying to suppress his annoyance. He felt like he had been played. Ning Shu spread his hands and said, I don't mean anything. You tried to rape me before. I have to make you pay. Ning Shu moved the energy in his dantian and formed a dagger. Ning Shu held the dagger and tried to stab Poseidon. Poseidon grabbed Ning Shu's wrist and controlled Ning Shu. I am trying to talk to you, but you don't understand. Poseidon squeezed Ning Shu's wrist. Ning Shu put his other hand behind his back. He opened his hand and a dagger appeared. Ning Shu smiled faintly and said, You think you are a treasure, but in my heart, in your heart, I am the son of the god king. I am the god of the sea. I am. Poseidon kept emphasizing his identity. In a flash, Ning Shu held the dagger and stabbed it 3 inches below Poseidon's body. Ning Shu was very fast. He stabbed the dagger into an indescribable place and then quickly stepped back. The energy from the dagger turned into energy and rushed into Poseidon's body. The energy ran wild in the wound. Poseidon was stunned. When he came back to his senses, he immediately repaired his body. But the indescribable place was injured. It was so painful that Poseidon's face changed. How dare you hurt God? In the name of God, I will make you the smallest fish in the sea. You will never be able to leave the sea. After Athena cursed Ning Shu, Poseidon cursed Ning Shu. The power of the curse tore through Ning Shu's body. It wanted to turn the clay statue into a small fish that couldn't leave the sea. But the power of the curse went around Ning Shu's body and floated out of Ning Shu's body. It went to Poseidon, who had cursed him. Poseidon grunted. Now that he had resolved the problem of the curse, he looked at Ning Shu with bloodshot eyes and unleashed his godly aura. 39/39163/L Chapter 1862. Poseidon was a god and had a divine body. His body was indestructible and was vastly different from a human's. After being stabbed by Ning Shu in an indescribable place, Poseidon only felt pain for a moment before recovering. However, it consumed a lot of his divine power. What an ungrateful bitch. He was kind enough to accept this woman, but she actually dared to harm the noble god. Humans were just creatures raised by the gods. How dare she resist? She must be punished. You think you're so powerful? You think you can fight a god with just a little power? Let me tell you, it's not that simple. Not only me, but Athena will not let you go either. Poseidon was furious. He wanted to tear Ning Shu apart. Ning Shu pursed his lips regretfully. It seemed that he couldn't chop off his dick. No wonder the Greek gods were so valiant. They were made of iron. Even the wombs of the goddesses were made of iron. They were stronger than a human's flesh and blood. Ning Shu moved his neck, which made cracking sounds. He opened his hand and his energy formed a huge sword in Ning Shu's hand. In that case, she would kill Poseidon directly. After that, she would have to kill Athena and learn how to cast curses. She had the halo of faith and could resist curses, but Medusa did not. In the future, after she left, any god could curse Medusa and punish her. What was the point of doing that? Learning curses was to remove curses and avoid curses. She had a lot of things to do. If Poseidon stood in her way, she could only kill a god. Poseidon held the trident. His aura shook heaven and earth. Poseidon opened his mouth and roared. The earth shook and the mountains shook. His divine power changed the color of the sky. The roar of a god. Ning Shu slashed at Poseidon with his sword. Poseidon used his trident to block Ning Shu's attack. When the two weapons collided, there were clanging sounds and sparks. Both of them used their full strength. Once they collided, they were shocked by each other's strength. Sand and rocks flew everywhere. Even the trees were turned into ashes. Poseidon's eyes were bloodshot. Where does your power come from? Poseidon asked. Where does your power come from? Ning Shu smiled and said, humans can also defy the heavens and change their fate, breaking free from their shackles. My power was obtained through my own cultivation. Nonsense. Poseidon raised his trident and thrust it at Ning Shu. God's power is innate. Humans don't have that power. Ning Shu used her chi blade to block the trident. She didn't say anything, and a huge dragon appeared behind her. It roared and rushed towards Poseidon. It wrapped around Poseidon's body so tightly that Poseidon couldn't move at all. Without hesitation, Ning Shu plunged his blade into Poseidon's chest. Golden blood spurted out. Ning Shu reached into Poseidon's chest and grabbed Poseidon's heart. He pulled it out and held it in his hand. Golden blood stained Ning Shu's hand. There was a big hole in Poseidon's chest where his heart had been. Golden blood dripped out and dripped onto the ground. The stones on the ground were dyed gold. Perhaps they would turn into gold. Even though Poseidon had lost his heart, he did not fall. The heart in Ning Shu's hand was still beating. Poseidon's red eyes stared at Ning Shu. He roared, and the earth shook. The ground cracked. Giant cracks appeared, and the ground was like a spider. Give me back my heart. Poseidon shattered the dragon around his body. His body slowly grew. He became a giant, as if he was going to break the sky. Poseidon lifted his giant foot and stomped down on Ning Shu. The foot was so big that it covered the sky. When Ning Shu stomped down, it felt as if the sky was going to collapse. The giant foot seemed to come down slowly, but it was actually very fast. Ning Shu quickly dodged the giant foot. Poseidon's foot stomped on the ground, kicking up a thick layer of dust. The ground trembled, and a giant footprint was left behind. Ning Shu set up a seal and placed the heart inside. He stood on the dragon's head and rose into the air, facing Poseidon. The dragon was like a small worm in front of Poseidon. Ning Shu was so small that he could not be seen. Poseidon's breath was like a gust of wind. It blew Ning Shu's gauze away. The gigantic Poseidon's face was huge and ugly. His two nostrils were like huge caverns. Ning Shu could not bear to look at him. It was amazing to be able to grow bigger. Poseidon had giant genes. In the plot, Poseidon raped Medusa. Medusa was pregnant, and when she was beheaded by the hero, 2 rays of light flew out from her body. One of her sons was the giant Chryseis. It was not surprising that Poseidon could grow bigger. "Give me back my heart, or I will kill you and slaughter all humans. You will pay the price for offending God." Poseidon's voice was so loud that it was louder than thunder. Ning Shu's eardrums were hurting. Poseidon's breath was mixed with the smell of the sea. It was like a strong sea breeze. It was unbearable. Ning Shu stood on the dragon's head, holding Poseidon's heart in one hand. "I can give it back to you, but I have one condition." "How dare you threaten God and negotiate with God?" "Unforgivable." Poseidon's voice was like thunder. His eyes were like the sun in the sky. Golden blood dripped from the large hole in his chest, forming a patch on the ground. "That's enough. Don't act like a god. Your heart is in my hands now. If I crush your heart, what will you do?" Ning Shu said directly. "Do you want to negotiate?" "I can kill you," Poseidon roared. Poseidon roared. Ning Shu pinched her nose. "Has anyone ever told you that you're a little arrogant?" Especially when his body grew bigger. The smell was a little pungent. Poseidon was speechless. "Kill her. Kill her. Kill this woman. You can't kill me, so we can negotiate now." Ning Shu smiled and said, "Also, can you become smaller when we negotiate? You are a little ugly when you become bigger." Even if it was a cute thing, it was still very scary when it became too big. Poseidon was speechless. He was looking down on God and had no respect for God. Poseidon was so angry that the hole in his chest was bleeding. Poseidon was so angry that he was about to have a brain hemorrhage. If he did as Shen Lian said, what would happen to his dignity as a god? Poseidon reached out his huge hand, wanting to pinch Ning Shu. He had to pinch this woman into meat paste to vent his anger. Ning Shu disappeared in a flash, avoiding Poseidon's hand. 39/39163/L Chapter 1863. Being small had its advantages. Ning Shu dodged Poseidon's hand. But his hand was too big. He had to run for his life to avoid it. Poseidon tried to grab Ning Shu with both hands. Even if he couldn't grab him, he wanted to flatten Ning Shu like he was swatting a mosquito. The heart in Ning Shu's hand kept trying to escape from Ning Shu's hand and fly toward Poseidon. Ning Shu released his spiritual chi, the power of the stars, and the power of the sun. The dragon-shaped force became huge. It fought with Poseidon, clawing at the wound on Poseidon's heart. Ning Shu flew far away, watching the two giant creatures fight. It was as if the earth was shaking and the mountains were shaking. Sand and stones were flying everywhere. Ning Shu hugged the thin gauze around her tightly. The wind was about to blow it away. Poseidon was tired, probably because he didn't have a heart. Ning Shu played with Poseidon's heart. He pinched it when he was free. It was bouncy. When he pinched it, it beat faster. When he pinched it again, it beat even faster. Poseidon was speechless. What a bold mortal. Poseidon was exhausted. The dragon wrapped around his body. Poseidon used a lot of energy to shake the dragon away. Poseidon returned to his normal state. His clothes were soaked with golden blood. Poseidon flew in front of Ning Shu and looked at his heart. A mortal was holding it. His face was pale. He didn't pay attention and his heart was taken away by a human. Gods wouldn't die without their hearts. Their hearts would keep beating. But the heart was also the source of power. Without it, he would lose more than half of his power. Give me back my heart. What kind of deal do you want? Poseidon said, humiliated. He had never been threatened like this. He was the god of the sea, the younger brother of Hades, and the older brother of Zeus. He was one of the 3 giants of Olympus. I said, let's make a deal. Ning Shu held Poseidon's heart and moved it up and down. Poseidon's eyes followed the beat of his heart. She was afraid that her heart would fall to the ground with a thump. He could clearly feel the pull of his heart, but his heart could not return to his body. This damned woman, what deal? Poseidon's face darkened as he clenched his jaw. Teach me the art of curses. Ning Shu said. The curse technique should only be known by God. If she knew beforehand that there was a curse in this world, she would have exchanged for the curse technique from the system exchange store. She had to learn the curse technique, and she had to know how to remove it. Medusa used to be a defenseless beauty. After being raped by Poseidon, she was cursed by Athena. She had no way to come into contact with God's things, let alone things like curses and punishments. Even if she knew, she didn't have the power to remove them. I don't know. I don't know anything about curses, Poseidon said. He had no intention of teaching Ning Shu. The curse technique was called God's punishment, the punishment of God. This is something only God knows. You, a human, have no right to know. Poseidon was extremely proud. Ning Shu squeezed Poseidon's heart with an expressionless face. Poseidon's heart pounded rapidly. He could not help but put his hand on his chest. His heart hurt, and he felt as if it was being squeezed so tightly that he could not breathe. Ning Shu squeezed Poseidon's heart like he was squeezing a sponge. He squeezed out all the blood in the heart, and golden blood spurted out. Poseidon, he wanted to kill this bitch. Ning Shu saw that Poseidon was unwilling to agree, so she squeezed his heart like a handkerchief. Golden blood flowed out like a faucet. God's blood was precious. A drop of blood could create a human hero. A drop of blood could create a powerful magical beast. Poseidon watched his golden blood seep into the ground with heartache. He had lost so much blood. No amount of food could make up for it. Ning Shu felt like he was going to die of exhaustion. God's heart was so strong. It could still produce blood even after leaving the body. Okay, I can teach you. Poseidon had to admit that he did not know what to do with this woman. Instead of wasting his blood, he might as well teach her some god's punishment. Ning Shu immediately smiled and said, "It's great that you can think that way. But you can't tell me the wrong god's punishment, or I." Ning Shu held Poseidon's heart in her hand. Like biting an apple, she grabbed the heart and stuffed it into her mouth. Ning Shu was speechless. Damn, my teeth are going to break. Is this a heart or a stone? I ate your heart raw. I wonder if I'll become a god after eating God's heart. Ning Shu's mouth was full of golden blood. Ning Shu stuck out his tongue and licked it. Hey, this blood is a bit sweet. I shouldn't have wasted it. However, the blood that Ning Shu had ingested was burning fiercely in her body. Even her stomach was about to be scorched. Ning Shu's expression did not change as he absorbed the heat. Even though Ning Shu's face was beautiful and her eyes were as blue as the sea of stars, in Poseidon's eyes, Ning Shu looked ferocious. He had never seen a woman like her, not even a goddess. Which goddess wasn't beautiful and elegant? Who wouldn't hold their heart and gnaw on it? Humans nowadays wouldn't eat raw meat and drink blood. I can teach you God's punishment, but I have a request. You have to tell me how you control the sea. Poseidon decided to take back his heart first and then swallow this woman. Ning Shu laughed out loud, looking very proud of himself. Poseidon, laughing my ass, actually, I don't know how to control the sea. Everything before was a trick. Do you know what a trick is? Ning Shu said. If I could really control the sea, I would be a priest in Athena's temple and kneel on the ground every day. I've been fighting with you for control of the sea for a long time, Ning Shu said generously. Don't be afraid. You're still the god of the sea. Poseidon heaved a sigh of relief. Then he realized something was wrong. Even if it was a trick, why can't I control the sea? You said you took away my control of the sea. I lied to you. You actually believed me. Are you stupid? Ning Shu said directly. You can try again now. Poseidon, try my ass. Poseidon felt like he had been tricked by this woman. Ning Shu leaned to the side. You can try. I used a method to calm the sea, but I've used up all the charms. I can't control the sea anymore. 39/39163/L Chapter 1864. Ning Shu was lying through his teeth, but he did not expect to deceive Poseidon. He believed it, but it did not matter if he did not believe it. Poseidon was said to be all brawn and no brains, but he did not know how simple he could be. After living for so long, he could not be that stupid. Poseidon hesitantly picked up his trident and swung it at the ocean. The entire ocean roared, and the winds and waves were terrifying. Ning Shu shrugged. See, you can control the ocean now, right? What I did before was just a camouflage. Poseidon was speechless. He kept feeling that something was not quite right. Poseidon calmed down, and the tsunami and hurricanes slowly stopped. Then Poseidon waved his trident again, and the waves rose again, higher and higher. Poseidon kept experimenting, and the ocean was about to be destroyed. The sea monsters were about to vomit. As Poseidon experimented, he studied Ning Shu. Ning Shu smiled and said, "See, you're still the god of sea. What I did was just a camouflage. Pretend to be cool for 3 seconds." Poseidon narrowed his eyes. 3 seconds is not bad. That's enough time to change the outcome of a battle. I need this camouflage, Poseidon said. Ning Shu was speechless. TSK, who said that Poseidon was stupid? Tell me the art of divine punishment first, and then I'll tell you how to write the charm, Ning Shu said. Poseidon said, give me back my heart first. I have to give you back your heart and teach you the charm. I'm already at a disadvantage. What if you run away with the heart? Ning Shu wanted to know the difference between the curses of the East and the West. Ning Shu knew how to draw curses and charms, but he did not know the art of divine punishment. He would only be able to resolve it if he knew how it worked. Teach me the camouflage first, and then I'll teach you the art of divine punishment, Poseidon said. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. He drew a charm in the air with Poseidon's golden blood. Go, the talisman floated towards the surface of the sea, and countless water droplets floated up. These water droplets converged into human figures, and they began to sing and dance. See? I told you it was a trick, but you didn't believe me. Ning Shu shrugged. In the Far East, there are not only gods, but also humans who can cultivate. These things were all invented by humans. Ning Shu spouted some nonsense. Poseidon's expression was solemn. Humans can also obtain great power. This was not a good thing for the gods. As you can see, these effects are the power of the charm. It's just a smokescreen. Now you should teach me the divine retribution technique, or else I'll take your heart and run away. Ning Shu threatened, baring his teeth. The art of divine retribution will consume the god's power, Poseidon said with a solemn expression. Ning Shu, the divine power you're talking about is too general. What kind of power is it? Poseidon glanced at Ning Shu. Use your own divine blood to cast a curse with the power of faith. Ning Shu, how does it work? Burn a drop of your blood and then curse someone. The art of divine retribution can only cast a curse on someone who is weak. If the other party is too strong, the curse will backfire. Ning Shu thought for a moment. This should be a rule of heaven and earth, one thing for another. Divine blood was the source of the god's power. Using a drop of blood to curse someone. This was an irreversible process, unless one's power was far greater than the other party's. Ning Shu asked, only God's blood can cast a curse. I told you, only the gods can use the art of divine retribution. A human like you has no right to use it. You have no right to punish others, except for the gods, Poseidon said, looking at Ning Shu with disdain. Interesting. Ning Shu looked at the blood on his hand and saw a bird fly by in the distance. Suddenly, he said, in the name of Medusa, I bestow upon that bird a firebird with great power. What are you doing? Poseidon was furious. He watched as the blood gushed out of his heart and was burned. He used his divine blood to bestow power to an ordinary bird. The art of divine retribution was not only a punishment but also a blessing. This was just a trade. In the distance, the bird, who did not know what was going on, suddenly felt no pain. It felt like its body was being torn apart. It cried out in pain. Finally, its body turned into a huge bird, covered in fire. The bird, what happened? I'm so scared. Ning Shu understood what the art of divine retribution was. Whether it was a blessing or a punishment, there was a price to pay. Similarly, to deal with a curse, one had to pay more power than the curse. It was a product of an equivalent exchange. The price could be lifespan, beauty, or the power of faith. In short, there was a price to pay. It was not as good as charms and curses. Charms and curses were difficult to draw, and these charms required a lot of effort. An equivalent exchange. Now you should give me back my heart. Poseidon's face could not bear to look at it. Ning Shu really wanted to find a bottle and squeeze out a bottle of blood. He could use it slowly in the future. However, he did not have anything to hold the blood. Ning Shu thought for a while, turned water into a bottle, and squeezed the blood into the bottle. The golden blood shone like gold. After squeezing out a bottle of blood, Ning Shu threw the heart to Poseidon. The heart flew to Poseidon's chest, and the hole in Poseidon's heart was healed. Poseidon, he was going to destroy this woman. Ning Shu stood on the dragon's head and disappeared. Don't be disappointed. I will come back for you. Ning Shu waved at Poseidon. Sayonara. Ning Shu knew that he was facing some difficulties against the entire pantheon. Poseidon had suffered because of his carelessness. Poseidon looked down on him. The next time they met, Poseidon would use all his strength. Moreover, there was Zeus, Hades, and the other gods. Ning Shu ran away. Poseidon was so angry that his heart was about to explode. He had nothing to vent his anger on. He reached out to crush the flaming bird that was circling in the air. The flaming bird was frightened by Poseidon's power. It struggled to fly away, and its feathers fell to the ground in flames. The flaming bird flew in Ning Shu's direction, screaming at the top of its lungs. Perhaps Ning Shu had blessed it, but Ning Shu, who had flown far away, could hear its cries for help. Ning Shu stopped and looked a little puzzled. Then, she turned around and flew back. The sound was too shrill, and it kept on screaming in Ning Shu's ears. Ning Shu could only fly back. He saw the flaming bird in a panic, flapping its wings and running away. With Poseidon's power behind him, the bird was scared out of its wits. Ning Shu pointed his finger, and a barrier surrounded the bird, blocking Poseidon's power. 39/39163/L Chapter 1865. After all, this bird was the first creature she had blessed. Because of her, Poseidon was angry at it. The poor thing was scared out of its wits. After being enveloped by Ning Shu's enchantment, the feeling of death finally dissipated a little. The poor bird still did not understand what had happened. It did not understand why it had suddenly become so big and was covered in fire. It also did not know why this powerful person wanted to kill it. In short, it was confused. Ning Shu put the bird away and looked at Poseidon, who was chasing after him. He smiled and said, "Hi, we meet again." Poseidon put on a fake smile. The muscles on his face twitched. "You lied to me." Ning Shu asked in surprise, "What did I lie to you about?" "You did not teach me the camouflage spell and ran away." Poseidon held the trident and stood on the golden warhorse, full of divine power. Ning Shu's face was full of disbelief. "Didn't I already demonstrate it to you? Besides, I already know about the divine punishment technique after you told me about it." Poseidon silently looked at Ning Shu's exaggerated expression. The other party's expression made him look stupid. How was it possible for him to memorize such a complicated talisman after seeing the other party draw it once? Furthermore, he didn't mention any key points or anything that required special attention. Ha ha ha. Poseidon realized that if he really caught this woman, he would not be able to vent his anger no matter what kind of punishment or vicious torture he used. He hated her to the core. That was all. "Since you have walked right into my trap, teach me now," Poseidon said calmly. He was too angry, but now he was calm. "I will not take advantage of you. Look carefully." Ning Shu's fingers moved quickly. "Did you see it clearly?" As a god, he had higher intelligence, memory, and understanding than humans. After all, from a genetic point of view, the genes of a god were high-level genes. They were smarter than ordinary genes, had stronger bodies, and had a longer lifespan. "I did not see it clearly." "Draw it again," Poseidon said calmly. He was not as angry as before. Ning Shu frowned, feeling that something was wrong. He turned around and ran, but was stopped by someone who suddenly appeared. This person was sitting on an exquisite chariot with an eagle perched on his shoulder. His appearance was handsome and dignified. "God King." Poseidon placed his hand over his heart and bowed slightly to Zeus. So it was Zeus. As the god of the sky, Zeus controlled all kinds of weather phenomena such as wind and rain. Thunderbolts and lightning were the means he used to express his will to mankind. He was in control of all affairs in the human world. As the king of gods and the father of mortals, Zeus's divine might was far inferior to Poseidon's. When Ning Shu faced Zeus, it was as if he was facing the might of heaven and earth. Especially when Zeus used thunder as a weapon. As soon as he saw Zeus and Poseidon, Ning Shu could not help but think of the family history. Speaking of Greek mythology, one had to start from Zeus's grandmother, Gaia. Gaia was born from chaos. She was the first to give birth to her first child, the god of the sky, Uranus. Later, Gaia and Uranus got married. That's right, the mother and son got married and gave birth to many children, 12 titans, 3 cyclopes, 3 centimanes. Uranus was promoted to Zeus's grandfather. After the marriage, Gaia elected Uranus as the king of gods. It was said that after marriage, a man would change. Gradually, Uranus became obstinate and self-opinionated, disrespecting his mother and wife more and more. Thus, Gaia decided to overthrow Uranus and heavily reward him. Under the position of God King, the youngest son, Cronus, bravely cut off his father's. In other words, Zeus's father cut off his father's penis and became the king of gods. Zeus's grandfather's penis splashed out from the sea and gave birth to the goddess of love, Aphrodite, also known as Venus. Ning Shu. So this was how the goddess of love came to be. It was really hard to look at. As the third king of gods, Zeus was lustful by nature. Seeing Ning Shu wrapped in a thin veil and beautiful face, his old habits resurfaced. His eyes could not help but size up Ning Shu. As he did so, he kept touching his chin. Ning Shu felt that Zeus's gaze was like a laser, directly piercing through her. Meeting two perverts, really. The only one of the three brothers was not lustful. The cold-hearted Hades basically did not appear in the human world. Even if he did appear, he would bring death with him, bringing his soul into the underworld. With the god's power, Ning Shu suspected that he might have to have a threesome. Don't doubt it, it was completely possible. Is this the woman? Zeus asked Poseidon. King of gods, this is the woman. She is a human, but she has the power to resist the gods. This is not a good thing, Poseidon said directly. However, Ning Shu's ability to temporarily control the sea was hidden. If Zeus knew, it would not be good for him. Poseidon was not an idiot who did not know anything. Ning Shu pursed his lips, looking a little serious. Poseidon must have already informed his brother. Zeus frowned, looking very dignified. Dark clouds covered the sky. Zeus said to Ning Shu, "Come with me to Mount Olympus." "Where did your power come from?" Ning Shu said calmly, "King of gods, aren't you the omnipotent and omniscient God? You should know where my power came from. It is easy to guess. My power was given to me by the god of the sea. Goddess Athena also knows this. Poseidon, the god of the sea, personally said that my power was given to me by him." Zeus looked at Poseidon. What was going on? Poseidon was just making things up. Her power was not given to her by me, Poseidon said directly. Zeus looked at Ning Shu with a dignified expression and said, "Go to Mount Olympus." Ning Shu knew that if he went to the mountain, he would be tortured. As the king of gods, Zeus was sometimes arbitrary and cruel. For example, he treated his cousin, Prometheus. Prometheus had stolen the fire seed for humans and was punished by Zeus. He was taken to the Caucasus Mountains and tied to a steep cliff with an unbreakable chain. So that Prometheus could never sleep, his tired knees could not bend, and there was a diamond nail in his heaving chest. He had to endure hunger, the wind, and the sun. In addition, Zeus sent an eagle to peck at Prometheus's liver every day. However, the liver that was eaten would grow back immediately. It was a deterrent to the gods. If she really went, she did not know how she would be treated. Chapter 1866. If she went with Zeus, she wouldn't have a good ending. If she wasn't raped by Poseidon, Zeus might take advantage of her. If she went to Mount Olympus, Zeus's wife would definitely kill her. There were too many of these things. Zeus not only slept with goddesses, he also slept with mortal women and had many children. They were either gods or half-human half-god heroes. Therefore, Zeus was also known as the father of gods and mortals. But if she didn't go, she would go against the will of God, and the punishment would be unimaginably cruel. Ha 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 ha. So she had to run, but only if she could escape from Zeus and Poseidon. And Zeus was the god king, so he had the power to deter the gods. What should she do? Can I be honest? I don't want to go, Ning Shu said as he drew a charm. The charm was used to make him invisible. You don't have the right to refuse. Lightning appeared on Zeus' fingers. Ning Shu pointed, and the power of lightning struck Ning Shu. Athena also had the power of lightning, but compared to Zeus's, it was like comparing a firefly to the moon. It was too dangerous. Ning Shu's body couldn't help but tremble. He quickly dodged the lightning, but it followed him like a shadow. When it struck Ning Shu felt as if his soul was being torn apart. Ning Shu spat out a mouthful of blood. The charm was completed, and Ning Shu's figure suddenly disappeared in front of them. Other than Ning Shu, the firebird, who had been trembling in fear, had also disappeared. Zeus frowned and was a little surprised. He suddenly disappeared. God King, that woman is good at camouflage, Poseidon said. On the surface, Poseidon was respectful, but when he saw Zeus being humiliated, he gloated in his heart and calmed down. He wasn't the only one who was defeated by that woman. Now that she escaped from the God King, if anyone said that he couldn't do anything to a mere human, he would say that the God King couldn't do anything to her. He. Zeus carefully sensed Ning Shu's location, and then sent a thunderbolt in the direction of Ning Shu's escape. It struck Ning Shu's back. Her back was already dripping with blood, and her vision was blurry. Ning Shu spat out a mouthful of blood and continued to run. Fuck, it was so painful. Moreover, Zeus's thunder power kept crackling on Ning Shu's body. The electricity made Ning Shu's bones go soft, and he couldn't feel anything in his body. Ning Shu still didn't stop. If he was caught by the God King, the consequences would be dire. Ning Shu continued to draw talismans as he ran, as the duration of a talisman was limited. It was unrealistic for her to deal with a god with her current strength, especially when there were so many of them. There were also many war gods, gods with all sorts of powers. The lightning continued to revolve around Ning Shu's body. It was so painful that Ning Shu felt as if all the cells in his body were about to cry out. Just by relying on the power of lightning in his body, Zeus could pinpoint her location. Fuck. It was so painful. The power of lightning was so strong that Ning Shu felt as if his soul was about to be torn apart. The God King's attack was extraordinary, and Ning Shu felt that the pressure behind him was getting stronger. It seemed that Zeus had caught up. The little firebird shivered beside Ning Shu. It was at a loss. Ning Shu's scalp was about to explode. His hands were drawing talismans so fast that they left afterimages. Fuck, Ning Shu was furious. Isn't it just the power of lightning? I can even absorb the power of the sun and the stars. I can absorb the power of lightning as well. Ning Shu was also forced to use his peerless martial arts to absorb the power of lightning in his body. This was the first time Ning Shu absorbed such a violent power. The power of lightning rampaged through his meridians, causing blood to seep out of Ning Shu's body. The power of lightning was violent and unruly beyond Ning Shu's imagination. When it rushed into his dantian, it almost broke it. Ning Shu clenched his teeth and used his peerless martial arts to suppress the violent power of lightning. The power of thunder crackled in his dantian, causing his dantian to be turned upside down. Aside from spiritual energy, Ning Shu's dantian also contained the power of the sun and the power of the stars. These three forces occupied one area and were clearly separated. However, when the power of thunder rushed in, these three forces were stirred up into a turbulent state. The four powers in his dantian were in a mess, attacking each other. However, Ning Shu was in trouble. Ning Shu was about to cry. There was a pursuer behind him, and there was a power in his dantian causing trouble. However, if he didn't absorb the power of lightning, Zeus would soon catch up with him. Now, his dantian was a mess. It didn't listen to his commands and had no power. If Poseidon and Zeus caught up with him, wouldn't he be at their mercy? Although absorbing the power of lightning was dangerous, it was a way to kill two birds with one stone. He could gain another kind of power and get rid of Zeus's pursuit. The premise was that he could control the violent power of lightning. Damn, it hurts so much. If it was an ordinary human body, Ning Shu would have already turned into a pile of ashes. Her body, which had been trained in peerless martial arts, was much stronger than an ordinary body. Moreover, her strength was enormous. Zeus, who was chasing from behind, felt the power of lightning slowly dissipating. He couldn't even pinpoint the woman's position. There was actually someone who could resist the power of lightning. Even the gods would be afraid. Ning Shu felt as if her heart had been electrocuted into minced meat, becoming dumpling fillings. Her beautiful chestnut-colored hair, which was slightly curled like seaweed, had been permed into an afro, with wisps of smoke rising from her head. Ning Shu's gauze was also gone. Fortunately, she had the invisibility charm, so no one saw her running naked. Next time, she would strip Zeus's clothes and let him run naked in front of the gods. Regardless of whether it could be realized or not, he felt good. Ning Shu ran while adjusting and suppressing the violent power of lightning. Ning Shu struggled to let the four forces occupy his dantian. He felt that his dantian was very pitiful. Above it was the power of the stars, below it was the spiritual lake, on the left was the burning power of the sun, and on the right was the crackling power of lightning. His dantian was stuffed with all kinds of things. Barely suppressing the power of lightning, Ning Shu simply released the power of lightning. A huge hovering thunder dragon rushed out of Ning Shu's body. Ning Shu rushed towards Zeus. Zeus was the Lord of Thunder. When the thunder dragon rushed over, it directly scattered the thunder dragon with one move. Ning Shu took this opportunity to run faster. Without the power of lightning, Zeus couldn't pinpoint her position. If he didn't run now, when would he? However, he had barely mastered a kind of power. When it was windy and rainy, and thunder and lightning flashed, he could stand on a mountain and hold an iron rod to attract lightning. It was just that when the lightning entered the body, it was very painful. It was like being electrocuted to death. Chapter 1867. Ning Shu relied on the invisibility charm and quickly ran away. Zeus stopped in mid-air, his face a little ugly. Poseidon stood behind Zeus. His lips twitched, and the corners of his mouth twitched. He looked as if he was gloating over Zeus' misfortune. Zhao Si turned to look at Poseidon, who immediately became serious. "Who is this woman?" Zeus Poseidon asked. "You should ask Athena. She should know better than anyone else. This woman used to be Athena's priestess." Poseidon threw the blame to Zeus. After all, this had nothing to do with him. Athena should thank him. If he hadn't taken a fancy to this woman, Athena wouldn't have known that her priestess had the power to fight against the gods. Yes, she should thank him. Let's go find Athena. Zeus drove his chariot in search of Athena. Poseidon thought for a moment and followed. Ning Shu ran for his life. He didn't know how long he had been running, but he finally stopped when his body was exhausted. Ning Shu landed on a mountaintop and collapsed on the ground. The invisibility charm's power dissipated, and Ning Shu was naked. Xiaohua, who was trembling, looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu pointed his finger, and water wrapped around his body. The white water wrapped around Ning Shu's important parts. Ning Shu turned to look at his back. It was a bloody mess. Now that he wasn't so tense, he could feel the pain on his back. It was such a pity for his snow-white, flawless skin. Ning Shu slowly used his spiritual energy to heal his wounds. The weather was unusually hot. Ning Shu pointed his finger, and water droplets appeared in front of him. Ning Shu swallowed the water droplets and felt much better. He also ate a fasting pill. Ning Shu looked at the bird that was hugging its head with its wings. He pointed his finger, and water appeared in front of it. The red bird looked at Ning Shu, opened its mouth, and swallowed the water. The bird called out to Ning Shu and slowly moved into Ning Shu. Ning Shu reached out and patted his head, thinking about what to do next. Ning Shu did not know where he was, but he felt that it was much hotter than Yadi City. Even the air was distorted by the evaporation. Ning Shu kept wiping his sweat as he absorbed the power of the fiery sun. From time to time, he would produce some water to drink. There were no signs of human habitation in the wilderness. Currently, there were not many humans, and they had yet to occupy every corner of the world. Ning Shu felt that he needed to find a set of clothes to wear. The weather was too hot, and the water on Ning Shu's body quickly evaporated. Ning Shu released the giant dragon and stood on its back, preparing to look for any signs of city-state gang members or people. Seeing Ning Shu leave, the fire bird hurriedly flapped its wings and chased after Ning Shu. Ning Shu said to it, "Go wherever you want to go, there's no need to follow me." The bird Ning Shu called out and flapped its fiery red wings. It was very afraid now and did not know where to go, so it might as well follow this person. It respected this person from the bottom of its heart. At least it would not be safe by her side. In any case, it was already scared out of its wits and did not know what to do. Ning Shu was now its support. It was originally a weak bird that did not know anything, but suddenly, such an unforeseen event happened. Even if its body became bigger, its heart was still small. Sparrows and sparrows knew the ambitions of swans. That was how it was, even its vision did not know how much power it had. Try to control your body and make yourself smaller. Ning Shu said. Such a big body was really eye-catching. The bird was dumbfounded. Don't ask it, it did not know anything. Ning Shu. Ning Shu pointed his finger and used a barrier to control it. The barrier kept shrinking, causing the bird to cry out miserably, flapping its wings and struggling desperately. Try to shrink your body and shrink together with the barrier. Ning Shu looked speechlessly at the bird that was about to collapse. The bird was dumbfounded, but if it did not shrink, its small body would be crushed by the barrier. It could only desperately shrink its body. The bird's body slowly shrank to the size of an ordinary sparrow. Its entire body was red like a ruby. It was a lifelike bird carved from a ruby. Ning Shu stretched out her white, slender, and beautiful hand. The bird flapped its wings and flew into Ning Shu's hand. Ning Shu placed the bird on his shoulder and flew away on the dragon's back, looking for cities and towns. Ning Shu sat cross-legged on the dragon and began to cultivate without stopping. Now, not only did she offend Athena and Poseidon, but she also attracted the attention of the king of gods. When the time came, would the gods come to suppress her? A sky full of gods surrounding her alone. Just thinking about it made her feel a little scared. Chirp chirp chirp, the bird on Ning Shu's shoulder chirped. Ning Shu opened his eyes and looked down. He saw people. The dragon flew down, and Ning Shu touched the ground with the tip of his foot. Damn, he did not have shoes to wear. Ning Shu's feet stepped on the scalding ground. He felt like he was about to be roasted. This was a town, very primitive and simple. The houses were all built with thatch. It was located in the forest, surrounded by plants with wide leaves. However, the leaves were starting to turn yellow. The wild grass by the roadside had also turned yellow. The sun in the sky was extremely hot. Ning Shu walked over and looked around. What was surprising was that the people in this place were wearing thin gauze. Their weaving skills were not bad. Ning Shu's appearance caused these people to stare at him. Ning Shu wanted to find some clothes to wear. Ning Shu casually walked into a house. There were rustling sounds in the house. Someone should be weaving. The goddess of wisdom, Athena, had given humans weaving, animal husbandry, and agriculture. Now, humans could also weave. They wore beautiful clothes and did not use leaves as cover like before. They were also warmer. Who are you? A dark-skinned woman asked Ning Shu. She looked at him warily. Her gaze stopped on Ning Shu's shoulder. She looked at the flame-red bird with admiration. Ning Shu said, I'm a passerby. I want to buy some clothes from you. Ning Shu saw some woven cloth hanging in the house. It could be made into clothes. The woman shook her head and said, I'm sorry, I can't give it to you. I worked hard to make it. What are you going to exchange for it? They had never met before. How could she give something to Ning Shu? If you use this bird to exchange for it, I can give it to you. I can also make a set of clothes for you. Ning Shu immediately nodded. Okay. The bird. The firebird grabbed Ning Shu's shoulder tightly with its claws. Ning Shu said helplessly, Look, he's not willing to follow you. Then there's no other way. Do you have any other requests? Do you have anything else to exchange? I don't want to exchange for now. The woman shook her head. Ning Shu felt that he did not have anything valuable on him. He did not have any gems or gold. He was a pauper. He did not get anything by following Athena. He did not even get a salary. Chapter 1868. The only thing Ning Shu had that was valuable was Poseidon's blood, but he did not know if she knew what it was. What is your wish? I can fulfill it for you, Ning Shu asked. The next time he did a mission, he had to exchange for some clothes. Otherwise, he would have to run around naked like he was doing now. The girl shook her head. Then she thought of something and said, "It hasn't rained for 2 months. There is almost no water in the well. Even if there was water, it would be muddy water." She had prayed to the gods for a long time, but there was still no rain. The girl was just saying it casually. She did not expect Ning Shu to make it rain. Ning Shu said, "If I can make it rain, will you give me the clothes?" The girl did not believe him at all. "If you can make it rain, I will give you the cloth and make you a beautiful dress." Only the gods could control the 4 seasons. This girl who appeared out of nowhere had her hair standing on end. She was beautiful, but it did not mean that she could make it rain. It can rain at night. Get the clothes ready, Ning Shu said. Ning Shu lowered the temperature of the clouds. The colder the water vapor in the air, the more it would turn into water. This was the principle of artificial rain. The girl was skeptical. She did not believe Ning Shu at all. Ning Shu did not care. He found a place to sit down and asked the weaving girl, "What is your name?" The girl did not raise her head and said, "Arachne, are you not leaving?" "I have nowhere to go now." "I have to wait for your clothes," Ning Shu said casually. "But I think your name sounds familiar." "Arachne, weaving." Ning Shu asked, "This is Lydia." "Yes," Arachne said. "Ning Shu." Ning Shu looked at the dark-skinned woman and clicked her tongue. After running so far, she still met someone who was related to Athena. The young girl in Lydia was called Arachne. Her weaving skills were unparalleled. The woven shawl was as thin as a cicada's wing but as warm as a fur. The patterns on the fabric were so vivid that even birds flew in through the window to peck at the cherries on the embroidery. She was young and everyone praised her. She was so proud of herself that she boasted, "I am the best weaver in the world. I weave better than Athena." Athena knew about it, and so did the other gods. Athena immediately set out for the village of Lydia where Arachne lived. Arachne was in her room spinning and weaving. She heard a knock at the door and opened it. A tall blonde beauty stood at the door, looking reserved and dignified. He roughly guessed who this beauty was and knelt before her. A gentle voice came from above Arachne's head. "All right, lost girl, I am Athena. Can you give me a reason not to kill you?" Arachne shook her head and wept, begging for Athena's forgiveness. "Poor child, you are proud of your talent. Your talent will destroy you like the sting of a scorpion." Athena gave her a chance. The two of them made a bet that whoever could weave the most beautiful cloth would never be able to touch a spindle again. Arachne lost, of course. She was so terrified that she took a hemp rope and hanged herself. Athena saw that Arachne's face had turned purple, her eyes were bulging, and her hair was standing on end. Athena touched Arachne's shoulder. Arachne's face turned from purple to black, her eyes became more prominent, her body shrank, and her arms and legs became longer. Athena touched the rope again. The rope swayed and became thinner and thinner until it became a thin thread. At one end of the thread hung a hairy insect with many legs. The loser of the bet would never be able to touch a spindle or weave. The kind Athena turned Arachne into a spider and let her continue weaving in the bushes. "Ning Shu, if someone wants to die, just let them die. Why turn them into ugly spiders? You turned Medusa into an ugly snake demon and a young girl into a spider. How many of them are so ugly? Arachne was proud of her weaving skills. Athena's transformation into an old woman made Arachne fear the gods. Arachne didn't care, but Athena must be angry. Did she really think that the gods were magnanimous? Ning Shu said, "You're pretty good. These fabrics are beautiful." "Actually, I can weave even more beautiful fabrics," Arachne said. "It's important to be humble. Making a fortune in silence is the way of the king." Arachne was a human girl. Although she was talented, she didn't have the strength to truss a chicken. This result was certain. As the ancestor of weaving, how could Athena tolerate a human saying that someone could weave better than her? "I don't know what you're talking about. Everyone says that I weave beautiful fabrics," Arachne said. Ning Shu propped up his chin and looked out the window. Some dark clouds had gathered in the sky, blocking the sun. The ground became a little gloomy. "You can make clothes for me now. The clouds are already gathering. It will definitely rain at night," Ning Shu said. "When it really rains, I can quickly make clothes for you," Arachne said. Ning Shu sat cross-legged on the ground and began to cultivate. He had to seize the time to cultivate. With a boom, thunder appeared in the sky. Arachne was a little surprised. She walked out of the house and looked at the sky. Other than Arachne, many other people were waiting for the rain to fall. The thunder became more and more frequent. Ning Shu stopped cultivating and ran out of the house. He flew near the thunder. Ning Shu stood on a tree and watched the thunder approach. He decided to attract the thunder and absorb its power. Ning Shu took a deep breath and provoked the thunder. A bolt of thunder mercilessly struck Ning Shu's body. Ning Shu's hair stood up and smoke came out. Ning Shu opened his mouth and spat out white smoke. The power of thunder flowed in his body. He didn't know if it was because he had been baptized by Zeus' power of thunder, but Ning Shu felt that this thunder wasn't as painful as Zeus' power of thunder. Ning Shu absorbed the power of thunder. The power of thunder crackled in his dantian. It was a gain. Ning Shu kept provoking the thunder. The thunder rumbled, and one bolt after another struck Ning Shu's body. Ning Shu opened his mouth and spat out smoke. His skin and flesh were about to be cooked. After the thunder and lightning, the rain poured down. Everyone took out clay pots and held them above their heads to catch the rain. Some people ran wildly in the rain, while others danced. Ning Shu returned to the house. The thatched house was a little leaky and dripping rain. Arachne put away his cloth and prepared to make clothes for Ning Shu. He carefully looked at Ning Shu and asked, "I will make clothes for you. Are you a god?" "No." Ning Shu sat down and began to cultivate. He suppressed the power of thunder in his dantian. Chapter 1869. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Arachne made a set of clothes for Ning Shu. The top was a tube top, revealing her arms and stomach. The bottom was a beautiful skirt with exquisite patterns. Her chest was full and her waist was slender. Ning Shu put on the clothes and twirled around. She felt like a cute little fairy. On Ning Shu's exposed belly button, Arachne pasted a small red crystal-like stone on it. Ning Shu's small waist and the sparkling crystal on her belly button made her look very beautiful, very beautiful. Her hair, which had been blown up by lightning, returned to its original appearance after being drenched in the rain. It curled up like a waterfall. "Very beautiful," Arachne said proudly. Arachne said proudly, "Many merchants will buy my cloth. They are so careful not to break it." Ning Shu nodded. "It is very beautiful. Very few people can reach your level of craftsmanship. However, you can only say this in front of me. Don't say this to everyone. Even if you have talent, you need the wisdom to protect yourself. Arachne tilted her head and said carelessly, I didn't say this to everyone. Everyone says that my craftsmanship is on par with Athena's and that I will surpass her one day. They are just being polite and flattering you. Don't take it seriously. There is no end to learning, Ning Shu said. Now, Arachne had made a beautiful set of clothes for her. Ning Shu hoped that Arachne would not be turned into a spider by Athena. Arachne seemed to have been praised to death. Everyone was done with the cloth made by Arachne. Then, Arachne's arrogance amidst the praises spread to the ears of Athena and the gods. Athena would definitely find an excuse for a human to say such arrogant words. She would definitely be taught a lesson. Actually, I don't quite understand what you mean. Arachne asked Ning Shu. Ning Shu said, what if I tell you that I know a little bit of prophecy about your future? Arachne looked at Ning Shu in surprise and asked carefully, what will my future be like? Arachne's brown eyes shone with light and a little nervousness. She was excited to know her future. You'll die, and you'll hang yourself with a hemp rope when you're young and in your prime. Dawn Talk said directly. Ah! Arachne covered her mouth with a look of surprise and anger. How can I hang myself? Because you said that your weaving skills have surpassed Athena's. Ning Shu said. Everyone is praising your weaving skills, because you said that, Athena will turn you into a spider. Spider? Alanik looked puzzled. She didn't have any impression of spiders. Ning Shu was not surprised because Arachne was the ancestor of spiders. And Arachne's was. Arachne, Arachne, and Arachne. And Arachne. How? Arachne. Was Arni, translation. Arni of Arachne of translation of the translation art translation was translation. Arachne looked at Ning Shu's serious face and could not help but believe that Ning Shu was telling the truth. She asked, then what should I do? Is there any way to change this fate? Arachne asked Ning Shu. Trouble comes from the mouth. Don't say that your weaving skills have surpassed Athena's. Even if you have, don't say it, Ning Shu said. Alright, it's time for me to go. Ning Shu said with a smile. He had to deal with Poseidon and Athena. As for the fate of the future, he would take it one step at a time. The fall of a god was due to the fall of their divinity. Even if a god's heart was dug out, they would not die. If a god's divinity was destroyed, they would become an ordinary person. Otherwise, they would disappear and fall. Ning Shu cultivated as he hurried on his way. Unfortunately, Ning Shu couldn't seem to find the way back. He was running in a panic, so it was a little difficult for him to go back now. Are you leaving? Are you a god? Arachne asked Ning Shu. If you think I am a god, then I am a god. Ning Shu smiled faintly. He stepped on the giant dragon's head and slowly rose into the sky. Many people stared at Ning Shu and knelt down. In the blink of an eye, Ning Shu left the village. Ning Shu sat cross-legged on the giant dragon and began to cultivate. The most important thing was to familiarize himself with the power of thunder in his body. He felt a faint pain in his dantian. When he had absorbed the power of the fire sun, he had almost been roasted. Now that he had absorbed the power of thunder, Ning Shu felt that his bones had become soft and numb. The firebird stopped on Ning Shu's shoulder and chirped. Ning Shu opened his eyes and turned to look at it. The firebird was dazzling under the sunlight, reflecting the luster of a gemstone. Ning Shu did not know what was wrong with the firebird. Ning Shu did not know what was wrong with her. The firebird lay weakly on Ning Shu's shoulder, her fiery red wings covering him. What was wrong? Could it be that he was hungry? Ning Shu took out a fasting pill and placed it in front of the firebird. The firebird pecked at the fasting pill, but because its body was too small, it couldn't swallow it in one gulp. The firebird directly transformed into a giant bird and swallowed the fasting pill in one gulp. After that, it transformed back into a small bird that was smaller than a palm. It seemed that it was really hungry. Ning Shu touched his chin and looked at the fiery red bird. What would this bird eat in the future? With such a huge body, ordinary fruits would not be able to satisfy it. Forget it, it would solve it by itself. These pills are gone. If you want to fill your stomach in the future, you have to think of a way. It was so big and so powerful. She had to feed it. Could it be more useless? She was definitely able to control this bird now. What about when the Medusa returned? Would it be hungry and swallow the Medusa directly? Gratitude for a small amount of rice, hatred for a small amount of rice. Find whatever food you want to eat. Don't eat humans, and don't provoke gods. Understand? Ning Shu said to the firebird. Ning Shu had already helped you to be reborn. With such a big body, Ning Shu did not want to raise a giant baby. The firebird flapped its wings. Sensing that Ning Shu was a little serious, it chirped. It was unknown if it understood. Ning Shu continued to cultivate and looked for Athena. What Ning Shu wanted to do now was to destroy Athena's divinity. Poseidon raped Medusa, Athena cursed Medusa, and the hero knight cut off Medusa's head and put it on Athena's shield. The hero used Medusa's head and then offered it to Athena. He was probably trying to please Athena. Athena had raised many human heroes. If she met the hero, she would definitely cut off the hero's head. Ning Shu's problem now was that she was lost. The world was so big and there were so few people. She did not even have anyone to ask for directions. She excitedly ran back to take revenge, but she could not find her way. This was a little awkward. Chapter 1870. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Unable to find the way back, Ning Shu had no choice but to use the GPS to locate Athena. 5 merit points were nothing to the rich Ning Shu. It was worth it to use 1 merit point to reduce the obstacles of the mission. Ning Shu spent 5 merit points and found out that Athena was in the Temple of Athens. With the map, it was much easier to find Athena. However, she ran around aimlessly and ran for a long time. Along the way, Ning Shu kept thinking about how to destroy a god's divinity. Divinity was the symbol and power of a god. It was like the power in Ning Shu's dantian. It meant a lot to Ning Shu. A divinity was strong and had the will of a god. With a divinity, it was equivalent to a god. It was not easy. There were so many gods and so many divinities. If she could master the law of time, it would be great. No one could escape from the law of time. However, he had to use normal power to destroy a divinity. If he used the power of law, Medusa would not use the power of law when she returned. He would definitely be at the mercy of others. This was a big problem. Ning Shu pondered as he cultivated. This kind of situation where the radish would be pulled out with the mud, and there were many melons on the vine was really difficult to deal with. Ning Shu felt that he might have to fight a whole sky of gods. If he could not win, he would be destroyed. However, it was not realistic to destroy all the gods because there were so many of them. There were all kinds of gods, the god of wine, the god of sea, the god of harvest, the god of curses, the goddess of beauty, the god of love, the god of sun, and the god of war. Even if he used a basket to store a divinity, he would have to store a lot of them. The most effective way was to have the power to make the gods fear and be on an equal footing with them. She could continue to cultivate her peerless martial arts, but how could she have the power to make the gods fear her? No one would dare to mess with her. Ning Shu decided to use Athena to practice. Even if he could not defeat Athena, she could still run away. After practicing with Athena, he would go find Poseidon. The tragedy of the client was caused by these two people. If anyone came looking for trouble with her after dealing with them, then he would kill them. If no one came looking for her, then she would be safe. However, that was not possible. As a human, her actions were treasonous and disrespectful to the gods. After a few days of running around, Ning Shu. When he returned to Athens, the armored soldiers were guarding the city gate. The previous turmoil had caused the entire city of Athens to fall into ruins. Now, the city was being rebuilt. Just as Ning Shu was about to enter the city gates, she was stopped by a golden-haired heroic-looking man who was riding a horse and wearing armor. The entire sky above Athens was filled with Athena's divine aura. As long as one came into contact with the divine aura, Athena would be able to sense it. Ning Shu wanted to sneak into Athens quietly. But it was not. "Take off your veil," the man on horseback shouted at Ning Shu. The man looked at Ning Shu and asked, "What is your name?" The man gave the surrounding soldiers a look, and some of them surrounded Ning Shu. "Are you the evil priest Medusa?" The man, Ning Shu, asked. Oh, someone recognized her even when she was wearing a veil. She was really a natural beauty. "It is indeed you, the evil priest Medusa." The knight raised his spear and pointed it at Ning Shu. Ning Shu looked at the man. He was tall and strong, and his voice was very loud. He held a spear and a shield in one hand, and there was a sword at his waist. How could he use so many weapons? "Who are you?" Lin Shu asked the knight. "I am Perseus." Ning Shu. Ning Shu smiled. Zeus's heroic son had appeared, and he was the man who cut off Medusa's head. Ning Shu looked at Perseus expressionlessly, his eyes cold. Perseus felt goosebumps all over his body. "Are you the evil priest Medusa?" "I am. What can you do to me?" Ning Shu stepped on the giant dragon head and looked at Perseus condescendingly. Medusa, who was cursed by Athena to become a snake demon, was thrown onto an isolated island. King Agos had a prophecy that his daughter Danae's son would kill him and seize his throne, so he imprisoned his daughter. Another prophecy. Prophecies were really interesting. The lecherous Zeus turned into golden rain and mated with the king's daughter Danae. He made the king's daughter pregnant and gave birth to Perseus. The king's son, he died. Thus, he sealed his daughter and grandson in a box and threw them into the sea, leaving them to fend for themselves. However, they survived because of the protection of Zeus. After growing up, Perseus decided to kill Medusa to protect his mother. He took her head and offered it to the king. In the process of his adventure, he received the help of the gods. He knew the location of Medusa and obtained 3 treasures. Using these 3 treasures, he successfully killed Medusa and took her head. After Medusa died, her eyes could still turn people into stone. Half of her blood could bring people back from the dead, and the other half could be fatal. Medusa's terrifying power became a kind of protection. Perseus used Medusa's head to defeat the sea monster and save his future wife. He built his own country, Mycenae. In the end, he offered Medusa's head to Athena. Athena inherited Medusa's ability and turned Medusa into the image on Athena's shield. Ning Shu's son. What did Medusa do wrong? She was raped, cursed, and turned into a monster. She still had the same fate. Perseus, who came to take the head, actually received the help of the gods. They were afraid that this piece of trash would not be able to successfully cut off Medusa's head, so they gave him 3 divine weapons and equipment. Cutting off the head of an innocent person, or a hero. Medusa is eating your rice. Poseidon, who defiled Medusa, Zeus, who was with different women, and those heroes, they were not punished for their actions that harmed women. What was left was only the sins of women. It was all women's fault. Athena and Medusa were both women, but she punished Medusa and let Poseidon go. Her position made her think more about the power center, which was the gains and losses of the patriarchal system. Porcius appeared in the city of Athens. He should be here to get the equipment, right? He must be here to look for Athena. Ning Shu took off her veil and looked at Porcius with her head tilted. She wanted to cut off Porcius's head. When Porcius saw Ning Shu's beautiful face, he was dazed for a moment. However, he quickly regained his senses and shouted, "Vicious priestess Medusa, you have harmed the people of Athens. You have blasphemed against the gods. You should be punished." Ning Shu directly turned water into a water knife and cut off Porcius's head. If there's something, I'll update 2 chapters. Touch. Chapter 1871. Ning Shu was really annoyed with Porcius' righteous look. He was righteous, and she was evil. It seemed like she had nothing to do with Porcius, and she had never hurt him. Ning Shu was disgusted by his behavior. He wanted to punish her just because of a reason. Even if I blasphemed against God, I didn't blaspheme you. You're just an illegitimate son of Zeus. Porcius' head was chopped off by Ning Shu. It flew in a circle in the air and landed on the ground, covered in dust. Porcius' expression was still filled with righteous indignation, and then there was a trace of fear. His handsome face was distorted. Blood spurted out from his neck, and Porcius' body fell from the horse's back. With a plop, dust flew up. The surrounding guards were stunned. Someone was beheaded just because of a disagreement. Moreover, the person was a prince. Although he had suffered since he was young, he was still a prince. The guards held their shields and spears and pointed at Ning Shu in the sky. Ning Shu's mouth twitched as he looked at the head on the ground. Perhaps he had the bloodline of God, or even the bloodline of the divine king. His head was separated, but he was still alive. Ning Shu opened his hand, and Porcius' head flew into Ning Shu's hand. Ning Shu grabbed Porcius' hair and looked at him closely. "How does it feel to have your head chopped off?" Ning Shu said with a smile. Blood dripped from the neat cut on his neck. Porcius' expression was extremely painful and twisted. He looked at Ning Shu as if he was looking at a demon. Ning Shu liked this look. If he didn't do something, how could he live up to her reputation as an evil priestess? Since he had taken the blame, he had to do something to live up to his reputation. "Medusa, how dare you!" Athena's angry voice rang out in the sky above Athens. Then, Athena's figure appeared, and she locked onto Ning Shu with a supreme divine aura. Athena was noble and elegant. At this moment, her divine aura was dense. Dark clouds floated in the sky, and lightning crackled in the clouds. Athena looked at Porcius' head in Ning Shu's hand and said coldly, "Release his head." "I won't let go. I won't let go." Ning Shu grabbed Porcius' hair and swung it around. Blood splattered everywhere. Athena's eyebrows were raised in anger at Ning Shu. How dare he be so arrogant when he swaggered in like this? "Let him go," Athena said in a low voice. It was obvious that she was suppressing her anger. Ning Shu's face was cold and indifferent. Fiery sun energy gushed out from his palm and burned Porcius's head. Porcius howled in pain. He had to kill Porcius. Otherwise, she would definitely be reborn and come back to life. Gods had many tricks up their sleeves. Resurrecting a person was nothing to them. He was still alive even after his head was chopped off. What else was impossible? Porcius was roasted by Ning Shu's fire sun force, and he howled in pain with his mouth wide open. "You!" Athena's chest heaved up and down. "Do you know who he is?" Ning Shu smiled and said, "I know. He is your half-brother, Zeus's illegitimate son. That's why I want to kill him." He retracted the fiery sun energy in his hand and released the power of thunder, electrocuting Porcius. After the electrocution, Ning Shu used the power of stars to torture Porcius back and forth. Finally, Porcius roared and his head turned into ashes. Ning Shu patted the dust off his hands. If Perseus could still be resurrected like this, then she would have nothing to say. Athena didn't even bat an eyelid at Perseus' death. Perseus was just a mortal. Even if a god died in front of her, Athena wouldn't care. What she cared about was Ning Shu's blasphemy towards her and his attitude towards her. He even came to her city to provoke her. You still have the guts to come back. Do you think you can resist any god just because you got some power from somewhere? Athena said coldly. Ning Shu smiled and said, no matter what, I am still your priest. There is nothing wrong with me coming back to take a look. Besides, I am also a citizen of Athens. Can't I come back to my hometown to take a look? Athena's face turned cold. She held her scepter and struck Ning Shu with the power of thunder, hitting Ning Shu. Ning Shu didn't dodge. He directly absorbed the power of thunder that Athena hit him. The power of thunder surged into Ning Shu's dantian and became Ning Shu's power. Ning Shu didn't even move in the face of Athena's attack. He said, I'll let you experience the feeling of being struck by thunder. A dragon flashing with lightning appeared behind Ning Shu's back. It roared at the sky and charged towards Athena. Athena frowned. She was already shocked when he caught her lightning. Now, he was able to control the power of lightning. Athena's power of thunder was inherited from Zeus, the Lord of Thunder. Athena was perplexed by Ning Shu's ability to control lightning. Medusa was just an ordinary human being, a beautiful woman with no power at all. The dragon of thunder rushed towards Athena. Athena used her shield to block the dragon's attack and began to fight with it. Ning Shu stood to the side, a fiery bird chirping on his shoulder. The aftermath of the battle between the man and dragon sent sand and stones flying. There were many armored guards far away. Ning Shu's long hair was blown into a mess by the wind, slapping against her face. She couldn't see the battle clearly. He casually tied his hair up and found a tree branch to tie it up. Ning Shu thought that it was pretty. A pretty person would look good even with a curtain. Poseidon and Athena used their scepter to disperse the dragon of thunder. However, as soon as Athena took a breath, the dragon gathered again. Qi-Jin was not a living thing. It had no sense of touch and did not know fatigue or pain. It could gather again after being dispersed. As long as Ning Shu still had power in his dantian, Athena would never feel tired. Athena frowned, her expression extremely serious. She glanced at Ning Shu, who was leisurely beside her. Where did he get such evil power from? The person who gave Medusa power was hiding in the dark. Or was he plotting something? Athena analyzed the situation. This Medusa was against the gods. She looked down on them and wanted to kill them. It was simply outrageous. Athena suspected that someone wanted to overthrow the divine system. Their target was the gods of Mount Olympus. This Medusa was just a scout, used to test the waters. Medusa, are you Medusa? Or did some evil power invade your heart and soul? Did a demon take over your body? Athena's expression was serious. She used her scepter to disperse the dragon of thunder. She was tired of the endless dragon. Chapter 1872. Athena was distracted by the lightning dragon, and she had many questions that she had yet to answer. She used her scepter to absorb the power of the lightning. Athena's scepter crackled as it trembled. Perhaps it had absorbed too much energy at once, causing it to tremble slightly. Ning Shu's expression did not change. Athena pointed her trembling scepter at Ning Shu and asked, "Who is behind you? Is it the sword of Olympus?" Athena asked. Ning Shu spread his hands and said, "Since you are asking, can you at least show some sincerity? I won't tell you with your attitude." Athena squeezed out a laugh from her throat. Her expression was full of contempt. Who doesn't know how to laugh? Ning Shu also laughed. Ning Shu thought for a moment and flew to the front of the temple of Athena. Athena was shocked. She chased after Ning Shu and shouted, "What are you doing?" Ning Shu stretched out his hand and flicked the huge statue in front of the temple. Although Ning Shu's finger was thin and weak, Ning Shu's flick caused the huge statue to tremble. If Ning Shu had used a little more force, the statue would have collapsed. Athena was so angry that her hair stood on end. Dark clouds gathered in the sky, and a strong wind blew. God was angry. Ning Shu released the power of the stars. A dragon made of thousands of stars roared out from Ning Shu's body and wrapped around the huge statue. Then the dragon tightened its grip, and the statue began to crack. In the end, it was reduced to rubble. You have gone too far. When Athena saw that her idol had been destroyed, she was furious. A huge thunderbolt exploded in the sky, and the earth began to shake as the earthquake began. Strong winds blew, and the earth shook. Dark clouds covered the sky, and it looked like the end of the world. The citizens of Athens were terrified. It had started again. Their houses hadn't even been repaired yet, so why was it starting again? Ning Shu said, "Don't be like this. Your city is destroyed." Fuck. Athena was furious. This woman had bullied her way into her territory, and now she was pretending to be concerned about her people and her city. Thunder boomed in the sky, and dark clouds covered the sun. The whole world was so dark that one could not see their own fingers. The people of Athens were trembling in fear. They felt that God had abandoned them. Ning Shu did not care about this at all. Even when lightning struck him, Ning Shu absorbed the power of the lightning and converted it into his own power. Considering that Athena's scepter could absorb the power of lightning, Ning Shu did not release the lightning dragon. Instead, he released the star dragon and the sun dragon. The burning fire dragon rushed toward Athena. In the dark world, the burning fire dragon was very dazzling. It was ominous and dangerous, as if it was going to destroy the whole world. Athena raised her shield and blocked the fire dragon's attack, and a huge storm annihilated the fire dragon. Athena's shield had been lent to her by Zeus. Once the shield of Zeus was wielded, it would create a powerful storm. Its power was unstoppable. If Zeus held the shield of Zeus, the sky would be clear. But once it was in the sky, it would cause lightning to flash and thunder to rumble. Later, Zeus lent the shield to Athena, so there were two sides to the shield. The two shields were different, but they were equally powerful. They were also indestructible. Battle and ferocity were all installed on the shield. Ning Shu was not in a hurry. He released the power of the stars. The power of the stars was the strongest among all powers. It contained the power of thousands of stars. The star dragon rushed toward Athena. Ning Shu pointed his finger at the sky above Athens and set up a barrier. If they really fought, Athena would not care about the people in the city. Now that the two of them were fighting, they would not care about anything. If they fought, they might destroy the whole city. In order to avoid losing his merit points, Ning Shu set up a barrier to prevent the city from being attacked by the aftermath of the battle. As the star dragon fought with Athena, a scepter appeared in Ning Shu's hand. Since everyone liked to use scepters as weapons, she decided to follow their example and use it as a high-end weapon. Ning Shu raised the scepter and attacked Athena with the star dragon. Athena was a little weak, but she was still a god of war. Her battle power was off the charts. Athena's hair fluttered, and the armor on her body became brighter. She was a mighty goddess of war. Ning Shu did not want a stalemate like this. He wanted to destroy Athena's divine spark. The power of a god was endless. Besides Athena, there were countless other gods. Being in a stalemate with Athena was not something to be proud of. Besides Athena, there were many powerful gods. If these gods attacked her together, Ning Shu could only laugh. He had to take out an effective and decisive power that could destroy or intimidate a god. Ning Shu had been thinking of ways to destroy a god's divine spark. Ning Shu's fingers flew, forming a seal and drawing a talisman in the air. Freeze! The body-securing talisman hit Athena's body, and her body was immediately frozen. However, in the next second, her body trembled slightly, and she was about to break out of the talisman. Ning Shu immediately mobilized the power of the sun, spirit energy, star power, and thunder in his body. Ning Shu was compressing 4 different types of energy. She had to balance 4 different types of energy, and it was very difficult to fuse them together. Ning Shu's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He did not dare to relax at all. All of his mental power was used to fuse the powers. He was fully focused and did not dare to be careless. Otherwise, the violent repulsion of the powers would blow her up. Athena quickly broke free from the control of the body-securing talisman. She held the scepter and sent out a powerful thunderbolt at Ning Shu. Ning Shu's hair stood on end. The fused powers in his dantian almost collapsed. Ning Shu drew a talisman in the air and froze Athena again. The 4 powers turned into a thin needle and shot directly into Athena's forehead. Then, without Ning Shu's mental control, the compressed powers exploded in Athena's mind. Athena held her head in pain. Blood flowed out of her 7 orifices. Athena looked up to the sky and roared, "Despicable human, I will kill you. I will make you suffer the fire of the underworld every night." A huge storm circled around Athena, protecting her in the middle. Chapter 1873. The 4 opposing forces didn't do anything to Athena, only causing her to bleed from her orifices. However, Athena's expression was one of extreme pain. Her eyes were bloodshot, and her hair was flying in the wind. Athena held her head in pain. She didn't retaliate against Ning Shu, which meant that she was in a lot of pain. Perhaps she didn't even have the strength to retaliate. Ning Shu's skirt fluttered in the wind, but Ning Shu didn't move. "What are you trying to do? What is your goal?" Athena's voice was filled with pain. She stared at Ning Shu with her bloodshot eyes. Especially in such a dark environment, the 2 bloody holes in her eyes were particularly frightening. Ning Shu remained unmoved and continued to condense the fine needles. Because of the previous experience, Ning Shu condensed the fine needles much faster this time and was much more proficient. The needles flew towards Athena's forehead. Athena had already suffered once. This time, she used her shield to block the needles. The needles exploded, and the huge force caused cracks to appear on Athena's shield. Athena's arm that was holding the shield went limp. Her bones had already been shattered. Although she was at a disadvantage, Athena raised her chin. She looked noble and awe-inspiring. "Who are you? What is your goal?" Athena endured the pain in her head and asked in a hoarse voice. Ning Shu smiled and said, "Actually, I don't have any goals. I just want to live with dignity. I want to live according to my choice. I don't want to be raped, cursed, or beheaded. Those who offend God should be punished," Athena said coldly. There was no right or wrong. Only the strong should punish the weak. Medusa was a human, and a human woman at that. Since they didn't realize the harm they had done to women, they naturally wouldn't sympathize with women. Instead, they would let women bear the greatest responsibility. Even if Medusa was forced to do so. Ning Shu condensed 2 more needles and threw them at Athena. Athena's arm was already injured, so she could only block one of the needles with her shield. Unable to resist the other needle, the needle pierced through Athena's forehead. Athena's expression was a little sluggish, and then her 2 eyeballs exploded. The huge pressure and explosive force in her head caused the fragile eyes to explode first. Athena roared, holding the scepter and muttering something in the ancient language of the gods. Her voice was sonorous and powerful, and it caused people to tremble. The sky was getting darker and darker, as if it was going to press down. There was an aura of death that made people's hearts feel like they were going to explode. Ning Shu frowned. Athena was about to unleash her ultimate move. Ning Shu hurriedly set up a barrier around himself. His fingers flew as he drew a talisman. The talisman hit Athena's body. It only lasted for a second before Athena broke free from the talisman's power. Ning Shu condensed a few thin needles, some of which rushed into Athena's body, while others rushed into Athena's glabella. Athena's divine body suffered great damage. A huge force exploded in her body, destroying the structure of her body. Golden blood seeped out of the corner of Athena's mouth. 2 lines of bloody tears flowed down her face. Medusa, a god-slayer like you will not have a good ending. I curse you with my life. You will become an ugly monster that no one can approach. You will be a lonely monster that feeds on filth. You will be alone forever. Anyone who approaches you will die. Athena's gloomy voice reverberated between heaven and earth. The echoes were abnormally terrifying. The thick black smoke of the curse drifted towards Ning Shu. The black smoke of the curse enveloped Ning Shu. Perhaps because the curse was too powerful, Faith Halo was unable to break it. The cold and vicious aura flowed through Ning Shu's bones, tearing at Ning Shu's body. It was very painful. Athena hated Ning Shu. She used her own life force as the price to curse Ning Shu. However, Ning Shu was completely fine. Athena, on the other hand, paid for it with her life. Athena roared. The barrier that Ning Shu had set up around the city of Athens shattered. The entire city was under Athena's attack. Ah, despicable human, human. Athena let out an unwilling roar. Countless streams of divine power gushed out of her body and shot towards the city of Athens. The streams of power were like comets crashing into the earth. Athena wanted to destroy the world. Athena vented her hatred for Ning Shu on the entire human race, including the people of Athens who had always worshipped her. This was a god. She had all the characteristics of a human. Her hatred, anger, and viciousness were amplified. Ning Shu's expression was calm as he quickly set up a barrier. All the water in the wells of Athens was instantly sucked dry by Ning Shu, forming a water barrier in the sky. Ning Shu continued to strengthen the barrier. Streams of divine power crashed into the barrier like boulders. The barrier shook violently, causing the ground to tremble. Even the dormant volcanoes were awakened, and lava spewed out. The end of the world. For the people of Athens, this was the end of the world. Ning Shu tapped the magma with her finger, and the violent magma calmed down. Ning Shu stabilized the magma that had already splashed out, not allowing it to flow. Ning Shu gritted his teeth and continued to strengthen the barrier. This is a grudge between you and me. What does it have to do with Athens? Moreover, this city was named after Athena. Athena was no longer able to stand. She lay in the air. Humans are all ungrateful. People like you who kill gods and blaspheme gods will continue to appear in the future. Athena's sense of superiority was vividly displayed. Gods were not to be humiliated or blasphemed. Gods were high and mighty. Ning Shu chuckled and saw that Athena was no longer breathing. Even if she didn't kill her, her life had already been extinguished by the curse. The disaster on the ground continued. Ning Shu continued to strengthen the barrier. His divine power was still resolutely carrying out Athena's will and destroying the city. Perhaps Athena was afraid of humans, or perhaps she knew that she would not be able to live on and was unwilling to leave her city behind and use someone else's name. In short, she wanted the entire city to be buried with her. In a sense, the city of Athens belonged to Athena. She was obligated to protect the city and had the right to deal with it. Athena's body floated in the air. Star Spirit wrapped around Athena's body and dragged her in front of Ning Shu. Ning Shu touched Athena's forehead and felt power gathering in her mind. He touched Athena's chest. Her heart was still beating slightly. It was very weak. If he did not pay attention, he would not be able to feel it. Chapter 1874. Athena's body no longer had Athena's aura, but her heart was still beating. Now that Athena was dead, perhaps a new Athena would be born as time passed. She would also be called Athena, but her personality would be different. She would be a brand new god. How could this be possible? Although this process might take a long time, Ning Shu did not want another Athena to appear. Although it would be a brand new Athena, she would definitely inherit Athena's will. If Athena's will was to destroy humanity or to kill her, it would not be a good thing. A dagger appeared in Ning Shu's hand, and he directly cut open Athena's head. However, her divine body was really hard. Athena's head was a bloody mess, like golden watermelon juice. The power of the thin needle had destroyed Athena's head. Ning Shu reached into Athena's head and fished something out. It was sparkling and translucent, like a magnificent crystal. Ning Shu looked at it. This should be a divine spark, the embodiment of a god's power and will. Ning Shu pinched the divine spark. It was very hard. Ning Shu chuckled and used all his strength to pinch the divine spark. A crack appeared on the divine spark. Then, like a spider, the crack spread all over the divine spark. Finally, with a slight cracking sound, the divine spark turned into dust. As the divine spark was destroyed, Athena's body was also destroyed, turning into ashes. At this point, Athena had completely fallen. There was no more goddess Athena in this world. Without the will of the divine spark, the divine power gradually dissipated. The dark clouds in the sky slowly dispersed, and the sun shone brightly on the ground. Ning Shu covered his eyes with his hand. The light was too strong for his eyes. The trembling ground also calmed down. Everyone was in a state of confusion and helplessness, in a state of stupefaction. In the end, one after another, they began to cry. Ning Shu turned around and looked at Athena's temple. Without the protection of the divine power, the temple looked dim. Ning Shu could collapse it with a single breath. Ning Shu stretched lazily. At least one of them had been dealt with. No, two of them had been dealt with. One was Medusa, and the other was Perseus. Now, only Poseidon was left. The people who were directly related to this matter had been dealt with, but the people who were indirectly involved had appeared. She might have to go against the Olympian gods. Oh my God! At that time, Ning Shu felt that her calves and stomach might tremble when she saw the black mass. Ning Shu floated in the air and looked at the desolate city of Athens. He shouted, "Athena is dead. This city is no longer habitable. God may punish the people of this city. Everyone, run." This place was already in ruins. Rather than rebuilding it, it was better to move to another place. Based on Athena's experience, it was inexplicable for God to vent his anger on her. Because she was a human, God wanted to exterminate all humans in the city of Athens. When Zeus arrived, he saw that his daughter had been killed by a poisonous ant and the ant's nest had been set on fire. The people of Athens panicked. Hearing Ning Shu's words, they didn't have time to understand what had happened. They only heard that the god who protected them was dead. Because they might be punished by the gods, they all packed their bags and ran. Then, like ants, they all fled from the city of Athens. Ning Shu sat on the dragon's body and headed towards the sea. Then, he went to find Poseidon. Ning Shu practiced compressing his power into thin needles while thinking about how to kill a god. He suddenly realized that a god's vitality was really strong. She might even be reborn. Although she might not be the same person after being reborn and her personality might change, Athena's position would still be there. She might even inherit the will of her predecessor. So, he had to completely destroy the divine spark and the divine body so that the god would disappear from this world. Should he use the thin needles to directly destroy the divine spark? Should he use the thin needles to directly pierce through the divine spark? But the divine spark was in a god's mind and couldn't be accurately located. If he could make the thin needles accurately locate the divine spark and destroy it, he would be able to create the most powerful attack. She could create the greatest attack power under limited conditions, and after she left, she could become Medusa's trump card. She could allow Medusa to survive so that others wouldn't dare to have any ideas about her. It must be said that Medusa was also suffering. Once a person was unlucky, they would not be able to rest in peace even after death. After Medusa was beheaded by Perseus, Perseus used her power to establish a country. In the end, she became Athena's shield. Anyone who saw Athena's shield would turn to stone. This was Medusa's power. They even claimed that Perseus was a great hero for helping Medusa to end her curse. Fuck you. When Ning Shu passed by a town, she bought some sheepskin and some brushes and ink. She bought these items to write down some charms. Some of the brushes and ink had magic. The notes written down would never dissipate. Other than the gods, there were also witches and all kinds of creatures with magic. Of course, these weren't gods. The ink and brush that Ning Shu bought had magic. Oh, where did Ning Shu get the money from? There were too many gems in the temple of Athena. Just a few of them were priceless. After Ning Shu left the city of Athens, a person appeared in the destroyed temple of Athena. This person sat on an exquisite chariot and looked at the ruins of Athens and the temple. He couldn't help but frown. He carefully sensed Athena and found that Athena had died. She was no longer a god in this world. Athena actually died. Zeus on the chariot had a solemn expression. He used some methods to find out about the battle. The battle between Ning Shu and Athena appeared in front of him. Especially when he saw Ning Shu crush Athena's divine spark, he couldn't help but frown. Thunder rumbled in the sky and dark clouds covered the sky. Zeus was angry. Athena was one of the 12 main gods of Olympus. She was the goddess of war, the goddess of wisdom, and many other gods. In the patriarchal pantheon, Athena held an important position as a female god. It was quite amazing. But now, she was killed by a human, and completely annihilated. This made Zeus very angry. Although Athena was a woman, she strictly followed the will of Zeus. Athena, who jumped out of Zeus' brain, was the continuation of Zeus. She was the continuation of Zeus' thoughts and will. Zeus snorted. The entire city of Athens shook violently. Cracks appeared on the ground and swallowed the entire city. 39/39163/L. Chapter 1875. The ravine-like fissure destroyed the city of Athens and also caused Athena's temple to disappear and be buried in the huge ravine. Since then, the city of Athens had disappeared, and one of the 12 main gods was gone. Zeus looked at Ning Shu, who was standing on the dragon's head. She had her hands behind her back, and her dress fluttered in the wind. She was a beautiful girl, but a lowly human. She was Athena's priestess, but now she had killed Athena. Would Poseidon be next? In terms of relationship, Athena was his daughter, and Poseidon was her brother. Poseidon had a bad temper and ambition, and he wanted to drag Zeus down from his position as the god king. Zeus could punish Poseidon, but that did not mean that a mere human could kill a god. This was unforgivable. Zeus drove his chariot towards Poseidon's sea palace. Since the human girl could kill Athena, Poseidon was in danger. This was a slap in the face to all the gods. Although there were too many gods to count, and if one or two of the 12 main gods were missing, they could promote other gods, but this was simply a disgrace to the gods. 2 main gods had been killed by a human. Would the humans still have any respect for the gods? Would the humans still believe in the gods? This was not a simple matter of one god dying. It concerned the entire pantheon, and the interests of every god. Zeus' chariot was very fast, and lightning flashed around him. Everywhere he passed, dark clouds gathered, and there was a downpour. Some places were even flooded. Ning Shu stood on the beach and walked into the sea as if she was walking on flat ground. Her dress was not wet at all, and she walked in the sea. The seawater was salty and wet, and all kinds of fish swam past Ning Shu. Some were as small as a finger, and some were huge, strange fish that could swallow countless small fish in one gulp. There were all kinds of sound waves in the sea that could not be heard by human ears. This was a unique way of communicating with sea creatures. There were even sunken ships, and some of them had chests of gems and gold coins. After dealing with Poseidon, she was going to search for treasures. Food, clothing, accommodation, and transportation all cost money. She was an ordinary human, and she had to eat. The firebird stood on Ning Shu's shoulder and was wrapped up by Ning Shu's barrier. It chirped in shock. Ning Shu could hear the excitement in the firebird's voice. The bird that flew in the sky could now enter the sea. This bird's IQ was very low. In the past, it was only the size of a baby's fist. There was only a little bit of brain matter in its brain, so its IQ was not too high. Ning Shu was thinking that when he was almost done with his mission, if he could find the herbs needed to concoct the wisdom pill in this world, he would concoct two for it. If they were big and tall without any brains, they would only be caught and roasted by the gods. In the future, there would even be people who would come to slay the bird. One had to know that heroes, knights, and people with a bit of power wanted to slay an evil dragon or a powerful creature to display their great power, make people worship them, and leave their names in history. Ning Shu arrived at Poseidon's sea palace. The sea god's sea palace was magnificent, and it was made of crystal. There were sea demons patrolling the sea palace. There were also mermaids holding weapons and guarding the sea palace. Ning Shu used a water barrier to wrap his body so that others could not see him. Ning Shu swaggered into the sea palace in front of these patrols. This sea palace was very luxurious. There were all kinds of jewels and pearls everywhere. The jewels shone with a beautiful luster. Poseidon was really rich. For a god, with a long life and wealth at his fingertips, he did not seem to use money much. Life was really too boring, too lonely. With nothing to do, he would just have to have sex with different people. Ning Shu strolled around the sea palace, looking at all kinds of beautiful corals, shells, and a rare beautiful sea view. He vaguely heard some sounds, charming and ambiguous. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. He was afraid that she had come at the wrong time. Poseidon was in a good mood. Ning Shu followed the sound to a palace and saw a scene that burned his eyes. Poseidon was rolling with a blonde beauty. Poseidon was kneeling on the bed, holding the blonde's waist. The hair on Poseidon's chest made Ning Shu feel like he was going blind. The hair on his legs was as if he was wearing pants. It burned his eyes. Being raped by such a beast, Medusa felt bitter. Because of the enchantment, no one could see her figure. Ning Shu walked to the side of the bed. The battle on the bed was still intense. Poseidon was a god with a strong physique. This woman seemed to be a siren. There were a few shining fish scales on her temples. Her body was curvy, and her expression was painful and happy. There was a spasm as if she was on the verge of death. Faint sounds floated out of her mouth. The air rippled with a sweet and ambiguous smell. Ning Shu stood by the bed expressionlessly. There was a shell bell at the head of the bed. As the bed shook, the shell also jingled. Ning Shu compressed the four forces into a thin needle. After continuous practice and compression, Ning Shu could now compress the needle smaller and smaller. It was as thin as a hair. Previously, it was the size of a needle used to make insoles. Now, it was as thin as a strand of hair. However, the force inside was more violent. Like a spring, the more compressed it was, the stronger the rebound force. This needle was much stronger than the one used on Athena. Poseidon was still hugging the beauty. Ning Shu flicked his finger, and the needle flew towards Poseidon. Poseidon felt the danger and quickly turned around. As soon as he turned, the needle shot into his forehead. Poseidon's body froze. A huge force exploded in his mind. It felt like an atomic bomb had been thrown into his head. Poseidon was naked and clutching his head. The woman beneath him was so frightened by Poseidon's appearance that she ran away without putting on any clothes. Poseidon roared in pain. Huge waves surged on the surface of the sea. One after another, the waves crashed onto the land. Ning Shu pointed with her finger and the entire ocean calmed down. Who is it? Poseidon was in pain from the huge force in his mind. Medusa, is it you? When Ning Shu escaped, he turned invisible. Poseidon thought for a moment and knew it was Ning Shu. Gods were really powerful. Even their brain tissue was destroyed, but they were still alive. Godhood gave them great power. It seemed that he had detonated it at the wrong time. He should have hit the divine spark. Ning Shu condensed a few more needles and shot them at Poseidon. Poseidon endured the pain in his mind and dodged the needles. 39/39163/L. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.